SS did in Germany, they'll turn their guns on everybody else.
I just wanted to weigh in on what I think happened and why Trump assembled all those generals and admirals. I think it started in 2020 when Milley finally said enough of this, when Trump held up the Bible upside down, and Milley obviously identified his role as not being part of enforcing the law.
I agree. He later apologized for that, in fact, in the press.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what happened as a result, right after that, and maybe you caught this and maybe not, because most people didn't, Trump then gave a speech talking about why the rank and file likes him and the officer corps doesn't. Mm-hmm. And he said that I'm keeping them out of war. So he was clearly driving a wedge between the officer corps and the rank and file. Now, what happened this week was he assembled those people to see how they would react to his new pitch with his the Department of War, Whiskey Pete, giving his ideas how we should approach the Department of Defense. Trump gets on, met with silence, unlike Fort Bragg with the enlisted people. Mm-hmm. He knows now that he's got a problem with the officer corps and the senior officers. Therefore, there's a purge coming. Yep. Many of them will be forced out. Yep. And the last thing I'm going to mention is the economy right now is perfect for Trump because it's allowing him to go into rural areas to take kids who are coming out of high school who have no job prospects at all because nobody's being hired. There are no job hirings.
Throw them into ICE.
Load up. That's right. That's right.
Yep. And ICE is going to become. And here's the big question in my mind, Brian. Let's say that ICE is now on course to be. I mean, they're in a massive hiring binge right now, $50,000 hiring bonuses and all kinds of stuff. But they're on a path to become the largest single police force in America, much like Hitler's protection detail, the SS, became the largest police force in Germany eventually. It took a couple of years, but it did. And the question in my mind is, the SS initially was participating in getting the people out of Germany or rounding them up anyway and putting them in camps, that they argued were not true Germans. That was the Jews, of course, and the gypsies and queer people, that they're not true Germans. And so Trump is going after people who are not true Americans. What happens when they've got all the immigrants out of the country and we still have 50,000 ICE guys running around with guns looking for something to do? That they will do the same thing the SS did in Germany by right around 1939, 1940. They'll turn their guns on everybody else. And, what do you think?
Of course, they're going to take an oath to Trump and not to the Constitution. I mean, the one thing that's missing here is that when you joined, I was in the service, I was in the Marine Corps, and you take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, not the president. Teddy Roosevelt talked about that. The loyalty is to the country and the Constitution, not the president. Trump wants to change that dynamic, and therefore he's turning this into what he wants in his image and likeness, a police state controlled by him. But at the end of the day, Tom, here's what it comes down to. A third of the country did not vote in the 2024 election. That's how he won, right? And most of those people, I suspect, are suffering from his policies. If they don't get out and vote in the midterms after experiencing the pain of the policies, the beautiful bill and all that, and they don't come out again in 28, I don't know what the future of this country holds, Frank.
Well, this is why they're frantically buying up the media. This is why Larry Ellison and other right-wing billionaires are on the verge of taking control of CNN and TikTok, and they've already got the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times and Fox News and CBS, and I mean, it's just it's a wholesale attack on the truth in America, basically, on reality in America, and whether they will be able to sustain it, I don't know. I mean, right now it seems like the two walls, the two barriers that are holding for democracy are late night comedians, and arguably just all the Democratic Party. I mean, it's like and our generals. Maybe.
Well, that's right. That's
Maybe.
right. They're the last line of defense.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, a friend of mine said, it was a Republican, said, "Are you hoping for a coup d'etat?" And I said, "I have no comment on that." But I said, as far as I'm concerned, I think we're in a position where we're losing our democracy. And one thing is, when you talk to Republicans, they'll tell you, "Well, it's not a democracy; it's a republic." Of course. It's a democratic republic. You need
correct.
the people to vote their representatives. It's a demos, the people, the Greek word for people. But they completely dismiss the idea of a democracy because they are a minority party and they know how to rule in the majority by disenfranchising voters and controlling the media, Sinclair Broadcasting and other groups of that nature.
Yeah, I get it. I'm with you. Brian, thank you. Well said. Thank you very much. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free, and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Today is the Seven Mountains Mandate by Matthew Bodie, exposing the dangerous plan to Christianize America and destroy democracy. We'll start with the introduction, the story of the mountains. The plan to Christianize America began 50 years ago with a vision from God, or so the legend goes. Bill Bright, the founder of a college campus evangelism organization, had just landed in Colorado in August of 1975 to participate in an event in Boulder. But something planted deep in his spirit had made Bright desperate to talk to Lauren Cunningham, a founder of another youth-oriented evangelism organization who was on vacation in Colorado. The vision from God that Bright had brought for Cunningham was a typed list of 7 influential areas of culture. If Christians could win these 7 areas for Christ, Bright said, the nation could be set right and return to its biblical origins. It would take a massive spiritual war, but ending the demonic control of these areas would have immense impact for the kingdom of God. The vision from God that Bright had brought for the Constitution, the problem was that God had placed Cunningham on a mountaintop near Durango on the other side of the state with no way to communicate. The man who had picked up Bright at the airport said he could get the two together. Someone got through to a ranger station in Durango, and then from there, someone on horseback found Cunningham's remote location. That man took Cunningham to a borrowed plane, which flew Cunningham to meet the man who had the urgent message from God. What Bright didn't know was that God had given Cunningham the same list, though his was sketched out on a legal pad. The two friends presented their lists to each other simultaneously. Cunningham later wrote, "Amazing coincidences like this happen all the time when Christians listen to the still small voice of the Holy Spirit." Over the years, the story of that 1975 meeting has been told many ways, accepted not merely as gospel, but a divine endorsement of the list that Bright and Cunningham created. Whatever the truth of the meeting, the list has become powerful spiritual lore passed down from one generation to another in the movement born from it. That movement is intent on destroying democracy by taking dominion in these 7 institutions: education, family, religion, government, business, media, and entertainment. Over the decades, many have made their mark on the list by envisioning different labels for it. While Bright and Cunningham spoke of areas of influence, others have called them gates, pillars, channels, and most commonly among the movement's supporters today, mountains. The preferred metaphor evolved over time, but the purpose of the list has remained the same: bring the kingdom of God to America by conquering each of these cultural domains. The story of the 7 Mountains movement told in this book is the story of those who inspired and shaped that 1975 list. It's also about how the list has come to dominate American political life in the 21st century without most Americans even having heard about it. This insidious victory is the work of a new generation of believers who have pushed it with more and more aggression, pushing us closer and closer to violence, threatening our society through their claim to divine urgency. In short, this is the story of how the list became a mandate. The spiritual energy behind this mandate pushed the list into the White House with the 2016 election of Donald Trump. From there, the movement exploded beyond the fringes of charismatic evangelicalism into larger institutions, influencers, and financial backers. To the handful of experts who have followed the movement for years, it was no surprise its supporters turned violent when the 2020 election didn't go the way they wanted, the way they say God wanted. This is where the movement has been headed. Yet even more frightening, since the 2021 insurrection at the Capitol, more Americans seemingly want what the 7 Mountains movement wants also. A June 2023 survey of 2,000 Americans estimated about 30% are open to the ideas associated with the 7 Mountains movement, such as things like the U.S. culture is fundamentally Christian, and Christian values should be solely and explicitly endorsed by the government. Another 2023 survey found a similar percentage of Americans either adhering to or sympathetic to these ideals. A second Trump administration only reinforces that. Of course, many of the Americans in those polls are the demographic most supportive of the mandate, the evangelicals. A 2024 survey showed that strong majorities of evangelicals agree broadly with the goals of the 7 Mountain movement. About 55% of evangelicals specifically agreed that, quote, God wants Christians to stand atop the 7 mountains of society, end quote. The survey also showed that the percentage of Christian Americans who believe in the mandate increased from just under 30% to over 41% in just 1 year. The surveyors note that, quote, what not long ago seemed to be a marginal set of beliefs has become a dominant religious framework among American Christians, end quote. The 7 Mountains movement has been adopted across the religious right, even by leaders who may not share its theology, because their followers are being motivated by the mandate. For example, the 2022 National Day of Prayer Guide from the Southern Baptist Convention asks its congregants to pray for the 7 centers of influence. Beyond religion, the 7 Mountains movement has become so accepted in American society that it has supporters from all levels of government. The book, The 7 Mountains Mandate, Exposing the Dangerous Plan to Christianize America and Destroy Democracy, by Matthew Bodie. or is this really a peace deal or just a performance? Personally, I think that really what this is all about is Donald Trump desperately trying to get the Nobel Prize, and he's basically strong-arming everybody into doing something. And, if it gets the hostages back, God bless him. It's a good thing. But my guess is that after the hostages are returned, the goal here is to stop famine in Gaza, right? People are literally starving to death right now. And to stop Israel from continuing to kill Palestinians on the West Bank and steal their homes, which is an ongoing process as well. So when Trump went to Putin and said, let's slow down or stop the war in Ukraine, Putin says, oh yeah, no problem, pats him on the head. Trump comes back and goes, I gave him some tough talk. And it turns out that, Putin just played him. I hope I'm wrong, but I predict that Netanyahu is just playing Trump. And he thinks he's playing Hamas. So we'll see. We'll see. Keep an eye on this. Also, we're all socialists, but only Trump acts like a communist. Say what? We'll talk about that in a minute. And could Trump twist the Insurrection Act to rig the 2026 and 2028 elections? Also, that's all in the first hour. Also, it's confirmed Trump's call for Comey, Adam Schiff, and Leticia James was supposed to be a direct message. It's supposed to be a private message. Is he losing it? America, and now who holds the top lawyer of America accountable? In the second hour of our program, Phil Ittner, our friend who's the war correspondent based out of Kyiv, Ukraine, will be here with us with a live update from Ukraine. He's actually traveling in one of the Ukrainian border cities. It's going to be an interesting conversation. Also, the head of the largest U.S. bank, the largest bank in America, warns that we are on the verge of a stock market crash. Remember the 2008 crash? That kind of took everyone by surprise, except for those of us who had been predicting it ever since the Republicans, Phil Gramm and company back in 1999, did away with Glass-Steagall. Anyhow, we'll talk about that in the second hour. In the third hour, Miles Taylor is going to drop by, our second guest for the day, on James Comey and the Insurrection Act. Miles, the former national security official in the Trump administration. Is your life worth less if you live in a blue state? Also, good news, J.D. Vance's favorite blogger plans to escape the United States. He says, I feel that I personally have to start thinking realistically about how to flee the country. Oh, and a fascism scholar who actually was fleeing the United States, he was moving, I believe, to Spain. He and his family got through security yesterday and got to their plane to discover that their flight had been canceled. Not their flight, their seats. Their reservation had been canceled. Very strange stuff. We live in interesting time. This is a fascism expert. But my op-ed today over at HartmanReport.com is titled, We're all socialists, but only Trump acts like a communist. And by we're all socialists, what I mean is that there's not a single American who doesn't want at least some of the socialism that, some of it is absolutely necessary to even support capitalism. And other parts of it are things that, people have wanted. In order to support capitalism, you have to have a socialist court system. In other words, paid for with tax dollars taken from rich people. You have to have a court system and from corporations. You have to have a court system to enforce contracts. If you can't have enforceable contracts, you can't have capitalism. And then you've got to have jails to enforce to work as the enforcement mechanism for the court system. You have to have police departments and investigative agencies like the FBI and the Securities and Exchange Commission to keep everybody honest. Otherwise, capitalism doesn't work. It descends into chaos. It just becomes corruption. So, let's define terms here. The kind of capitalism that the world had for about 1,000 years, roughly, through the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, you could call it neo-feudalism, the modern version of it, right up through the era that Dickens wrote about, really right up through World War II. The kind of capitalism that the world had was the kind of capitalism that produces a very, very small 1%. Virtually, well over 90% of the nation's wealth is in the hands of 1% of the people. Then there's a very small middle class. That's 4, 5, 6%, typically around 5% of the people. And that's the doctors and the lawyers who serve the 1%, who serve the morbidly rich. And then the bottom 94% is the desperately poor. Okay, that's raw capitalism. This is the world that, for example, Charles Dickens wrote about. Charles Dickens' father was dragged off to a debtor's prison when he was a child, when Dickens was a child. His father was dragged off. And so he saw it up close and personal, and you see this in every one of his books. You know, every one of his books. Christmas Carol is the one that pretty much everybody has read or has, seen the movie version of. And, Scrooge, I mean, the morbidly rich, the top 1%, literally don't even show up in that book, Christmas Carol. Scrooge was the middle class. He was a small business owner. He owned a company that was so small he only had one employee. But he was the middle class. And then Bob Cratchit was that 94% of everybody else who are the working poor, who was so poor he couldn't afford health care for his own son. That's the world that Russell Vought and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and all of these guys that are trying to gut, quote, socialism from the American way of life that they want to take us back to. And what got me thinking about this is this new Gallup poll that found that support for capitalism, which was at 60% in 2021, is down to 54% now. And only 37% of people rate big business favorably. In fact, Democrats prefer socialism over capitalism, 66 to 42%. So what is socialism? Well, socialism is where the government takes some of the money that it takes in taxes and provides, services. And there's this whole spectrum of socialism, from very little socialism, that which is necessary to maintain capitalism, which I described just a moment ago, the court system and the jails and that kind of stuff, the SEC and the IRS and whatnot, to the middle ground, which is where America was when Reagan came into office, where, we have a minimum wage, and, these are all socialist programs, right? Minimum wage, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, unions, all that kind of stuff. To, a lot of that stuff, we don't have as much socialism as they have, for example, in France. And then, of course, the third area is communism. Communism is where the government actually owns businesses. Now, Trump, while he's yelling about socialism and trying to gut the socialist aspects of our government to immiserate Americans, hoping that will produce the conflict necessary to bring out the military and crack down on us all, Trump is actually advocating communism. I mean, we've bought shares in a whole bunch of American companies, and this is. I mean, people are kind of making fun of it, but he's had our government acquire shares in Intel, MP Materials, Lithium Americas, Trilogy Metals, and U.S. Steel. And everybody from Fortune to the New York Times to the Guardian to the Wall Street Journal is saying, oh yeah, Trump is becoming like a communist. But the bottom line is that the stakes are enormous. We've seen the American middle class go from 2/3 of us down to 47% of us because of Reaganomics. And when it was 2/3 of us, you could achieve the middle class with a single paycheck. Now it takes 2 paychecks. So, we've got to bring back socialism. The socialism that everybody loves. We've got to strengthen it. And that's really what the shutdown debate is all about, too. The Democrats want a little more socialism. They want the Affordable Care Act, subsidies. They want cheap health care. That's socialism. And the Republicans are saying, no, we hate socialism, except for the rich, except for Donald Trump with his Bitcoin company that the government's going to support. Other than that, we hate socialism. How's it going to play out?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I guess we have to just stay tuned, but if the Democrats fail, get ready to become Bob Cratchit. And welcome back, Roger in Seattle. Hey, Roger, what's on your mind today?
I don't know if you are going to feature or talk about the musings of our ill-informed president, but he hopes Friday he'll be given the Nobel Peace Award.
Yeah, ain't going to happen.
But
ain't gonna happen.
Well, he just renamed our Defense Department the Department of War. Why not?
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly.
Anyway, he gets the reputation of and many of the BIPOC communities who don't keep up with politics. I'm going to vote for him because he's a good businessman. Well, unfortunately, that business model is Kim Jong-un and the Panamanian dictator and other drug dealers. So that I think if you name it, if you have a contest for all of your listeners and viewers to like the Ig Nobel Awards at MIT, call it the Morbidly Rich Rewards, like you were talking about earlier. That I think is a very good play on all of the previous attempts to name millionaires and billionaires as not in our public interest. That they go after the drug dealer model of business, but not the socially justice model of business. So why not go after Ig Nobel Awards like John Oliver and name a sewage plant or name a trash heap, the gold toilet trash heap, something to the effect that everybody knows what that refers to.
Yeah, I get it. It's an interesting suggestion, Roger. The Ig Nobel. Yeah, I like it. Roger, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That was a good one. Rita in Missoula, Montana. Hey, Rita, what's on your mind today?
Yes, good morning, Tom.
Hey.
I'm curious what would happen and the potential problems with putting forth a motion to vacate the House Speaker. I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene has talked about this, but I guess I'm not clear about the process. I saw
originally they had a rule that one single legislator could do this, and when Mike Johnson came in after 17 votes or something like that, they changed that rule to, I think it takes 8 or 9 or something like that. I'd have to go back and look, but it takes more than one, and so. In fact, it might even take a majority because all the Democrats... No, it doesn't. It takes a small number, and the Democrats are just staying out of the fight because they're concerned that if they get rid of Mike Johnson, they'll end up with somebody even crazier. Marjorie Taylor Greene has tried. A few others have tried. She's going through an interesting evolution. Have you seen her recent remarks?
Yes.
I mean, she's like... Apparently this happened because her son got got the notice from his insurance company that his premiums were about to spike. And she's like, oh, wait a minute. Everybody in the country is going to get one of these things. We're screwed. And so suddenly she's become the voice of reason in the GOP. I just think it's astonishing, Rita. I
agree. I guess I was under the impression that it still only took one person to do.
No, they did away with that rule. Yeah, they did away with that rule to make it a little bit harder. Yeah, thanks a lot, Rita. Nice to hear from you. I appreciate your watching us there in Missoula, Montana on Free Speech TV. Thank you. We'll be right back with more of the news of the day and your calls in 1 minute. Stay with me. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. So MAGA Mike and the Republicans want a religious test for people running for public office. They want to know that you are sufficiently Christian to be worthy of being elected. Right. MAGA Mike is one of these 7 mountain evangelicals. There are 7 domains where these dominionists believe that we need to have religion completely take them over. Education, religion, family, business, government and military, arts and entertainment, and the media. Seriously. This is not what Jesus was preaching when he said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar and unto God what is God's. This the opposite, in fact, of what Jesus was teaching. It's the opposite of Matthew 25, where Jesus said the only way to get to heaven is by feeding the hungry, healing the sick, helping the poor. This is counter-Christian, anti-Christian, in fact. In fact, I think you could say it is the Antichrist's work. There's a piece about it over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
They're shouting communists under blood-red skies, pointing their fingers while telling their lies. But the streets they stand on were paved by our hands. The teachers, the nurses, the ones they can't stand. They sell fear like gold in the market square, while the poor still breathe polluted air. We're all socialists, born from fire and pain. We built this dream through flood and rain. From the ashes of greed, a people rose. We're all socialists, and everyone knows. Trump buys the steel, and he calls it free. Sells the nation's soul on live TV. Cries Marxist loud while he takes control of the factories, the fields, and the nation's soul. He wraps his fist in the flag's torn seam, turns our labor into his dream. We're all socialists, the builders and the broke. We light the fires they tried to choke.
24 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. So what's the end game here for Donald Trump? Robert Reich is out with a new little video that's floating around social media and doing a pretty good job. And he says basically Trump's got this step-by-step plan. Number one, move ICE into the cities and have them engage in absolute brutality. Illegal, unconstitutional brutality that pisses off the people. Number two, when the people start to protest, bring in the military to put down the protests. Number three, when the people react to the military, and by the way, that reaction is what they're trying to provoke here in Portland. It's what Kristi Noem was hoping would happen yesterday when she came to Portland, or day before yesterday, I guess it was, when she came to Portland. And so far, we're not giving it to them. Instead, they're getting a naked bike ride, and they're getting people, bringing flowers, and which is why they're running out of there, and which is why they ran out and, knocked down and beat up an 83-year-old couple, he being a Vietnam War veteran, with a walker. And a couple of big burly ICE guys come out and knock him to the ground. She gets a concussion. She ends up in the hospital. They are hoping that it'll piss us off enough that in large numbers will show up, and maybe some of us will go nuts and do something violent. So that at that point, Donald Trump can declare that an insurrection is in process. The Insurrection Act of 1803 gets rolled out. He can lock down the country. The Insurrection Act allows him to get around posse comitatus. Posse comitatus, the law passed after the Civil War, says that the military, the United States military, may not ever again turn their guns on the average American citizen, that the military cannot perform police functions. They cannot be the ones who are, maintaining the peace unless there's an actual insurrection or a riot. Now, George Herbert Walker Bush in 93 invoked the Insurrection Act, when Los Angeles was on fire after the Rodney King beating. There have been a couple of, Lincoln, the Insurrection Act, obviously. But Trump desperately wants this because then he doesn't have to worry. I mean, right now he's being constrained. His military is limited in what they can do. But once he declares the Insurrection Act, once he invokes that, and if he can get it through the Supreme Court, and I'm guessing he will, then there's basically no limit to his power. He then turns America into a strongman single-party state and takes over the elections of 2026. And that's the goal that he's moving us toward. Robert Reich is pointing out, I'm agreeing with, and even J.B. Pritzker says that's what's up.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
This is going to get wild. This guy is absolutely committed to turning America into Russia. I'll take your calls after the break. Our book in today's Thom Hartmann Book Club is by Harvey J. Kaye, Professor Harvey Kaye. Take Hold of Our History, Make America Radical Again. This is from the introduction. On December 1st, 1862, in the midst of the Civil War, just weeks before he was to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, President Abraham Lincoln delivered his annual message to Congress. Lincoln firmly believed that the United States had an historic responsibility to demonstrate to the world that people can govern themselves, make equal rights not just a self-evident truth, but a manifest one, and create a political and economic order in which working people, both white and black, are not compelled to bow to anyone, neither aristocrats nor capitalists. Empowered by tens of thousands of black slaves who were already liberating themselves from bondage by escaping to the Union lines, and increasingly confident that the majority of his fellow Americans would recognize the truth of what he was saying, Lincoln closed his address by calling on them to see that the time had come to remember who they were and what they demanded, or what that demanded. He told them that to save the nation and all that it represented, they must live up to the nation's declared revolutionary purpose and promise, and act to radically enhance American freedom by bringing an end to slavery. This is a quote from Lincoln's address. Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. The fiery trial through which we pass will light us down in honor or dishonor to the latest generation. We say we are for the Union. The world will not forget that we say this. We know how to save the Union. The world knows we do know how to save it. We, even we here, hold the power and bear the responsibility. In giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free, honorable alike in what we give and what we preserve. We shall nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope of earth. We too, end of quote from Lincoln, back to Harvey. We too cannot escape history. Our own struggle to save the nation and the promise it proclaims has begun. Finally, after more than 40 years of fear-driven class war and culture war campaigns against the democratic achievements of generations, the hard-won rights of workers, women and people of color, and the very memory of how they were secured, and now both in the wake of the election debacle of 2016, which gave the presidency to the corrupt, mendacious, racist, sexist, and treacherous demagogue Donald Trump, and continued control of Congress to the formerly conservative but increasingly reactionary Republican Party, and in the face of intensified class and culture war campaigns, we the people have come not only to recognize that American democratic life is in jeopardy, but also to mobilize in hopes of saving it. Millions of us have rallied to the resistance and expressed our democratic fears and desires in action. In the historic Women's March and March for Our Lives of young people, the protests, demonstrations, and legal actions to defend the lives and rights of immigrants and refugees, the Me Too movement to combat sexual assault and harassment, the massive teacher strikes for higher pay and better funding of public schools in states red and blue, and the enthusiastic canvassing and campaigning for a blue wave to win back Congress in the 2018 midterm elections. But resistance is not enough. The time has come for us to remember who we are and what that demands. The time has come for us to embrace our radical history. The history of how a generation of Americans, high and low, and in all their diversity, not only turned their colonial rebellion into a war for independence, but also imbued American life, whether they all intended it or not, with radical imperative and impulse by declaring a revolutionary promise of freedom, equality, and democracy for all. The history of how generations of radicals and reformers served as the prophetic memory of that promise, and how generations of ordinary men and women, native-born and immigrant, struggled to make real the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and to expand not only the we in We the People, but also the powers of the people. And most especially in view of the crises we ourselves face, the history of how our greatest generations confronted and prevailed over the forces that threatened to destroy the nation and bury its revolutionary promise in the 1770s, 1860s, and 1930s and 1940s, not to mention the 1960s, by acting to make the United States, both inspired by Washington, Lincoln, and FDR, and pushing them to go farther than they might otherwise have gone, radically freer, more equal, and more democratic than ever before. The time has come to take hold of that history and make America radical again. I've titled this collection of my speeches and essays, Take Hold of Our History, Make America Radical Again, for reasons that will become obvious, and yet I cannot help but confess that if I had had to title it otherwise, I would have been sorely tempted to use, with full attribution, the title Max Lerner gave to his 1938 work, It Is Later Than You Think, The Need for a Militant Democracy. While it may not seem so, the crisis we face is no less demanding of action, urgent action, than that which confronted his generation. The book Take Hold of Our History by Harvey J. Kaye.
Look at the money trails, tax fraud, lies in the run. Trump University burned out, foundation beaten and undone. Mob money in the tower, Bezos whispers with Cohn. Casito's secrets, Trump and Epstein, shadows where the darkness shone. From hush money storm to a coup attempt, he weaponized the courts and democracy was bent. Is Donald Trump America's public enemy number one? He tore our justice down, made law the loaded gun. With every tweet and pardon, the rule of law undone. Is Donald Trump America's public enemy number one?
I think you're going to have to ask a future administration that question. They certainly seem to think he was after his first administration, although it took Merrick Garland 2 years to come to that conclusion, sadly. So what's on your mind? One last thing. Donald Trump's screed to Pam Bondi saying, you know, you've got to go after James Comey, Leticia James, and Adam Schiff. You got to do it now. You know, these guys prosecuted me. I want my revenge. That post, which when it came out, my response on this program was to tell you that that was supposed to be a private message. There's no doubt about it from the way it's written. It was obviously a message, you know, a DM, a private message from Donald Trump to Pam Bondi, but he pushed the wrong button and posted it publicly. And now the White House has confirmed that that's the case. But here we have the President of the United States instructing the head of our Department of Justice, our Attorney General, to prosecute people he doesn't like. That is a crime against democracy. There's no other way to say it. It's a crime against democracy. This is what Richard Nixon, in part, was threatened with impeachment for. It's part of the reason why he had to resign. This is what John Mitchell, in part, went to prison for, was executing those kinds of things. So keep an eye on this. I think this is a much bigger deal than anybody realizes, and I think it's going to blow up James Comey's prosecution, and it's going to make it really, really hard for them to go after James or Schiff. Keep an eye on it. Picking up your calls here, Rick in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. Hey, Rick, thanks for listening to KTNF. What's up?
Oh, hello, Tom. One way to encourage good trouble is do like a flash mob whenever allies are together. Mm-hmm. Do a silence at a pre-planned time. And then shout out the theme of the day, like, no kings, rule of law now. We did this, according to Bill McKibben's suggestion, at 2 minutes to 1 p.m. before the People's Climate March in 2014. And we did it. Mm-hmm. We could use the moment of silence at opportunities, big or small, at street actions, town halls, at a preschool pre-selected clock time, mm-hmm. after a certain speaker is done, or as soon as a Trump sycophant starts lying. This is explained at a website I made called standupdaily.org, okay, along with my G-rated dad jokes. But anyhow, the moment of silence during any sort of action when we're together is really powerful. It unites people, and it's good trouble in a good, nonviolent way.
Sounds like a plan, Rick, and thanks for the plug, for your website. What's your favorite dad joke over there?
How do you know when a joke is a dad joke?
I don't know. How do you know?
When it becomes apparent.
Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. Enough, Rick. Rick, thanks for the call. Marty in Wixom, Michigan. Hey, Marty, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I love your show, and usually I'm in total agreement with you, but on this movie that you discussed yesterday, the One Battle After Another, mm-hmm. I have to thoughtfully disagree. I think that movie is potentially very dangerous.
Have you seen it?
I'd like to briefly... Yes, I have. Okay. I'd like to briefly explain why.
Sure.
My wife and I were lured in to watch the film because it features those two traditionally progressive actors, Sean Penn and Leonardo DiCaprio. Mm-hmm. But we were shocked to find a movie that was very racist, sexist, and violent. But worst of all, at a time when we desperately need some good media and messaging to counter the emerging fascist takeover, this movie could quite seriously serve as a propaganda film for Trump and Stephen Miller.
Then why are they so upset about it?
That's why I'm shocked by that, because the film immediately begins showing these so-called liberal revolutionaries doing horrendously violent things, blowing up buildings, the electric grid, shooting people with automatic weapons, screaming obscenities.
Yeah, it's the old Weather Underground thing, yeah.
They could play this on an endless loop on Fox News to justify Trump's rhetoric about the leftist radicals.
But they're not. Instead, they're freaked out. They're saying, holy cow, this is an anti-Trump. This is an anti-conservative film.
I know. Yeah, I just don't. I mean, apparently Trump watched the old footage from the 2020 riots in Portland that inspired him to say,
on Fox,
that the city's war ravaged and so forth.
Yeah.
But Lord help us if he sees this movie. I mean, one can imagine Fox News taking clips of this film to justify his forthcoming fascist actions. I mean,
I'm skeptical, Marty. I understand what you're saying. It's fairly clear. I mean, you look at the cars in those early scenes; they're clearly from the '60s. And go ahead.
But I think the point is, it could be used as a very vivid portrayal of what Trump imagines as the enemy within.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, they don't need a Leo DiCaprio movie to do that. I mean, Fox News has enough B-roll, and they're inventing this stuff. I mean, you've got these AI products that produce movies that are super hyper realistic. ChatGPT's got one now too. So I don't think they need the movie.
Any suggestions? Do you have any suggestions for how we might avoid this movie being misused in that way?
There's the copyright law. I don't think the producers of the movie, I don't think Mr. Anderson or Mr. DiCaprio would be happy about that kind of use. I'm not all that worried about it, Marty. I just thought it was, number one, it had sort of a political message, but not so much. Mostly it's just, good entertainment. I thought it was a great movie. But Marty, thanks for the call. Jeff in Tawas, Michigan. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Great program this morning.
Thank you.
This is Jeff Ebgen with the Iosco County Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
I've led a protest here in Tawas, Michigan, in a small town in northern Michigan, every Saturday since March 24th.
Mm-hmm.
We maintain a level of civility and don't allow profanity and keep it peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
We've noticed an increase in the last couple of weeks in a nasty response by MAGA people driving by, fingering us, screaming at us, screaming profanity. Local authorities have even tried to ban protesting. So obviously the protests work. They're getting to the people. So I think we got to keep doing them.
Good.
We will be protesting again on October 18th, No King's Day, number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you, I guess, is a little off that topic, but how do you think we can persuade those Democrats that voted for Biden but did not vote for Kamala Harris to come back home to the Democrats?
I don't think we have to worry about that right now. I would be astonished if anybody who voted for Biden in 2020 and just stayed home in 2024 because, whatever, Kamala was too black or not progressive enough or too female or, the price of eggs was too high, whatever. I have a feeling that pretty strong sense that the majority of those people have already come back to the Democratic Party. And we're seeing that in all the special elections that we've had this year so far. Every single one, Democrats have just massively outperformed even their own history.
Yeah, I hope so. We're doing some research on voting patterns and that in the county and trying to get those people to make them come back. And I have to agree with you. I think they're going to come back anyway.
The swing vote that we have to attend to are the non-affiliated voters who have voted for, who voted for Obama and then for Trump, that kind of thing. And in fact, I think, a lot of those, I call them the Bernie independents, because they vote, in the primary. I knew a bunch of these guys. When we lived in Washington, D.C., we lived in this marina. We lived on a boat in a marina. And, maybe a third of the people who lived there were ex-Navy, retired Navy, some of them active duty, Coast Guard, whatnot, boat people. And they were all military and they were all Republicans. And I knew 7 people in our marina who voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary and Donald Trump in the general election because they wanted change. They just wanted change. There are these populist independents out there, and the Democratic Party has to have, become a populist party. It has to be, like Franklin Roosevelt was, like Teddy Roosevelt, who was a Republican, by the way, was, like Lyndon Johnson was. It just has to become a populist party. If it fails to, if we nominate another kind of institutionalist, we're screwed. But
you think Gavin Newsom can do that job?
Say that again?
You think Gavin Newsom can do that job?
I think Gavin Newsom certainly has that potential. I think J.B. Pritzker does too, and I think that there's a few others as well, including the governor of Tennessee. But we'll see. We'll see. Jeff, thanks a lot for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It is 46 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a minute. Stay with us. Victor in Pomona, California. Hey, Victor, what's on your mind today?
Hey, thanks. In your opening remarks this morning, you said and I believe it was tongue-in-cheek, that if Trump gets the Nobel Prize, God bless him. And I was reminded...
No, what I meant, it wasn't so much the Nobel Prize. What I meant was if Trump actually can end this war in Gaza, God bless him.
Okay. Because I was reminded of Tom... You know who Tom Lehrer was?
Oh, yeah. He played the piano and did, political satire songs that were just great.
Exactly.
Along with the Capitol Steps, sometimes.
Yeah, and when he retired, he was asked why he was retiring, and he said, when Henry Kissinger received the Nobel Peace Prize, I knew that satire was dead.
There you go. Yeah, good point.
And if the Nobel Committee was to award through pressure or whatever, they might as well close up shop, because any credibility that they might have would be down the drain, because it's a prize that you get for cumulative, accomplishments, not even a single, as good as that might be in the Middle East and in terms of Gaza, which I'm hoping, some kind of end can come to this.
Yeah.
You don't win a Nobel Peace Prize for that one.
There's no way in hell Trump is going to win the Nobel Peace Prize.
Oh no, I hope not. I mean, I can't imagine. Yeah, but I was just reminded of Tom Lehrer's comment, and so anyhow, that's all I had to say.
I got it. Okay, Victor, thanks. Fred in Tacoma. Hey, Fred, what's on your mind today?
Good afternoon or good morning, Tom. This is Fred Kelly, and what I wanted to do was tell you how to get this country started back again, and that is for all of us to shut the country down, just sit down and wait until these guys in Washington get back to work and take the power back in the Congress and get the rule of law started again. Because if we get out in the streets and protest, then ICE comes in and all the thuggery comes in, and that would not be a good thing.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, if Trump is really desperate to invoke the Insurrection Act, and I think what he knows is that he's got 14 months to do this. And that's why he's moving step by step, measured step, as it were. And also, he's trying to get the Supreme Court to go along with everything he's doing. But I think that one of the big indicators that's going to tell us how far he's willing to go and how far we've gone, there's two. One is whether he tries to use troops or anything else against No King's Day protesters. If that happens, that's a huge warning sign. And then the second is the elections in Virginia in November. If the Democrats wipe out the Republicans and pull off a trifecta there in Virginia, then, all bets are off for a year from November, because Trump is going to, at that point, the Republicans are going to realize, oh my God, we're playing for keeps here. Excuse me. So keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. Fred, thanks for the call. Good, nice, thoughtful comments. I appreciate the call. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Welcome back. 9 minutes before the hour, picking up your calls here. Dave in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hi, Tom. It's always good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was listening to what you were talking about earlier about how a lot of Americans are starting to take a second look at socialism, and I put the word socialism in quotes because a lot of times I don't think that most Americans would know a socialist if one jammed a hammer and sickle up their butts while singing the International.
Well, and part of the problem is that Marx, who was writing during the American Civil War, more or less, Marx used the word socialism instead of the word communism. I think it was Engels who invented the word communism. And so, go ahead.
But I was just going to say, my point would be that I think what Democrats should advocate for is a strong public sector. Mm-hmm. That would be a lot easier to understand and a lot clearer.
I agree.
Than using a term like socialism that not too many people really have a handle on it.
Yeah, the reason why I felt compelled to write that piece for today was, number one, this Gallup poll just came out showing that, more Americans want socialism and more Americans are skeptical of capitalism. And like you said, Dave, most Americans don't even know the difference between the two, or how the two actually require each other. And then number two, you had Stephen Miller on 2 different occasions has called us communists, and Donald Trump on 4 occasions has called us communists. And in both cases, they basically said they want to wipe out the communists, and they've identified communists as the enemy. And I wanted to make it very clear that the only, there's not a single Democrat out there who is saying that the federal government should be buying companies. But Trump has done that now with 4 companies. That the only guy who's advocating anything that resembles state ownership of companies, which is the dictionary definition of communism, is Donald Trump.
Yep.
So,
well, I think the term public sector would be a lot clearer and a lot easier to understand.
I agree. If I was giving messaging advice to Democrats, I would absolutely go with that, Dave. And I think you're spot on. I agree. Dave, thanks. Thanks a lot for the call. Thanks for thinking about that. Maria in Philadelphia. Hey, Maria, what's on your mind today?
Hi there. So, kind of based on a lot of the topics you were talking about today, for me it was the rich thing, welfare or socialism for me, but not for thee.
Yeah.
Because the most made all their money through our tax dollars. And the fact that after everything, this country this democratic republic that actually allows enough freedom and allows capitalism, obviously, opened up the arms, let these people in, made them wealthy, and now they want to turn around and kick democracy and everything that gave them what they have now in the teeth, which is what they're doing, is preposterous, right?
Yeah.
Especially because it's tax dollars, so they're kind of like using our money against us, which is what I think about ICE, for example.
Yeah.
That's our tax dollars.
Well, let me take it a step further. I predict that 1 year from today, in October of 2026, leading up to the November midterm elections, that Donald Trump will send a check to every American for $500 or $1,000 with his signature on it, saying that it's revenue from the tariffs.
It's possible. I mean, it's possible, but the thing is, that's a.
He did it in 2020.
I know, but people don't realize that it's a drop in the bucket to the trillions he's given to the rich that already have it. And that's the other thing. People that have all this, that are given everything, they're the most ungrateful people on the planet, right? The poor are grateful for anything that they can get. When they come here, they're like, I'm so thankful. These people have everything, and they act like power-hungry control freaks and spoiled brats, right? Hyperventilating.
It's what they are.
Exactly. And the thing about it is as though instead of them saying, I am grateful, I'm blessed, I'm very fortunate, I have a roof over my head, clothes to wear, and food to eat, and enough money to live, instead of them being grateful for that, they turn around and act like spoiled brats. So that's really, I've been wanting to tell, like I tell this to other people, but I've been trying to say this for a long time because a lot of people aren't thinking in that realm when they're looking at this. And they're also not thinking, maybe they are and maybe I just don't know, but a lot of them don't realize they're tax dollars, and these people are attacking like that elderly couple. I don't know if that was Chicago.
That was here in Portland. 2 84-year-olds beaten up by a nice guy.
Exactly. And they're hurting people that are paying taxes, the tax-paying people. They're hurting them with the money we're giving them for their jobs. So anyway, I do have to go, but I did want to tell you that real quick.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you, Maria. Well said. Gar in Atlanta. Hey, Gar, I have a minute here before the end of the show this hour. What's up?
How you doing there, Tom?
Good.
I just want to add something quickly. For one thing, I was in the military, and they got rid of the draft for a reason. And the reason why they got rid of the draft, they couldn't do a lot of things they could do now. As much as sending troops to different cities, they couldn't have did that because you had too many protesters in the military, most of the people in the National Guard was people who didn't want to go to Vietnam.
Yep.
And the thing about it, we got to understand what the military is about. It's about backing the dollar. That's what backs the dollar. That's why Nixon took us off the gold standard. He said, I got something better. I got the military and the police.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what backs the dollar now. Yeah. And the thing we got to understand as Americans is that it's up to us. And like I heard you say many times, when people start the movement and the politicians run in front of it and act like they leading it.
Yep.
And that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Because this is serious.
Yeah.
This is serious. And like Stephen Miller, if you understand him, he moved away from Nazi Germany. His family, they moved from Nazi Germany.
I know. He's got family members calling him out for basically being a fascist. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Pee Wee German out there. Gar, thank you. Spot on. You nailed it. Appreciate that. 57 minutes while it's the top of the hour here. We'll be back on the other side of this break with Phil Ittner live from Ukraine. Let's find out what's going on there. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
It's the Thom Hartmann University Book Club. Today we're reading from Jeffrey Sachs, Building the New American Economy, Smart, Fair, and Sustainable. This is from Chapter 13. It's titled, Restoring Trust in American Governance. More than any other threat facing America is the collapse of civic virtue, meaning the honesty and trust that enables the country to function as a decent, forward-looking, optimistic nation. The defining characteristic of the 2016 presidential election is that neither candidate was trusted. The defining characteristic of American society in our day is that Americans trust neither their political institutions nor each other. We need a conscious effort to reestablish trust by making fair play an explicit part of the national agenda. We have already noted the collapse in public confidence in the federal government. The collapse of trust in each other is equally striking. For decades, pollsters have asked America whether most people can be trusted. And for decades, the proportion answering in the negative has been rising. There are probably two main reasons for this downward trend. The first is the sharp widening of income inequalities since the 1970s. The second is the widespread feeling that those at the top of the heap in income and power regularly abuse their wealth and influence. Donald Trump's relentless assertion in the 2016 campaign that the system is rigged, a claim that resonated widely despite the obvious irony that Trump himself had been a relentless rigger of the system. The system is indeed rigged for the big corporate interests, such as the drug companies that set drug prices 1,000 times the production cost. It's rigged for the large IT companies, such as Apple, that deploy egregious tax loopholes that enable them to park funds overseas in tax-free overseas accounts. It's rigged for the hedge fund managers who take home hundreds of millions of dollars in pay and then face a top income tax rate of 20%, far below what others, vastly poorer Americans, must pay. It's rigged for the investment bankers that deliberately cheated their clients and then walked away with a mere slap on the wrist, if that. And the fact that the Clintons parlayed public office and a family foundation into a vehicle for vast personal enrichment was not lost on an unhappy and distrustful electorate. Considerable social science research in recent years has given laboratory evidence to an ancient truth that power and wealth do indeed corrupt. Consider a fascinating psychology experiment recently published in Nature, a leading scientific journal. The employees of a major international bank were divided randomly into two groups, a control group and a treatment group. Both groups were given forms to fill out at the start of the experiment. The control group was asked general questions. The treatment group was asked questions about their role in banking. Then each group was asked to flip coins and report honestly how many heads they flipped, being told that a greater number of heads would lead to a higher monetary reward. The control group reported that they flipped around 50% heads, an honest report. The treatment group claimed to have flipped around 58% heads, a dishonest report that exaggerated the proportion of heads flipped. The conclusion? Simply by being reminded that they were bankers by filling out the form about banking, the treatment group was spurred on to cheat. The psychologists concluded that the business culture of banking within that representative bank was a culture of cheating and greed. One feels that America is like that today, especially at the top. This is an age of impunity, a time when the rich and powerful get away with their misdeeds and are even lauded for them in some quarters. Donald Trump met the accusation that he had not paid income taxes for years with the response, "That makes me smart." Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein met the charge that his bank had cheated its customers with the response that they were, quote, doing God's work. Hedge fund manager John Paulson was celebrated on Wall Street for his cleverness in conspiring with Goldman Sachs to bilk a German bank out of hundreds of millions of dollars. The leaked emails show how the Clintons mixed their private, public, and foundation activities and simply confirm for many unhappy Americans that this is how the system works. The United States Supreme Court has shamelessly fed this impunity. In the infamous Citizens United case, the Supreme Court shockingly equated anonymous corporate contributions to political campaigns with free speech. The court demonstrated that it had no realistic sense of how such corporate contributions have undermined the legitimacy of our political system. In a more recent case, the Supreme Court overturned the conviction of former Virginia Governor Robert McDonnell, who had been convicted of fraud and extortion for taking gifts from a businessman promoting his health products to the state. McDonnell walked away free from a shoddy and egregious abuse of office. I've noted repeatedly that other high-income countries do not face these same trends. The U.S. pattern of rising inequality, falling trust, and increasing money in politics is not simply a reflection of the times or an inevitable side effect of democracy in the 21st century. Indeed, while many other countries are caught in a similar spiral of rising inequality, falling trust, increasing corruption, many others are not. Canada, for example, has successfully avoided these extremes, even though we share a common North American economy and a 3,000-mile border. Decency and trust can be maintained even in our complicated, globalized times. While there's no magic wand to restore social trust in the United States, there are important guideposts for citizens, businesses, and public officials. I suggest 6 key steps. First, we should acknowledge the dangerous hold of the lobbyists and the super-rich on the political process. While many incumbents in office today will not sever their ties with their campaign contributors, citizens should sever their ties with politicians who rely on such contributions. While many, so the book is Building the New American Economy, Smart, Fair, and Sustainable by Jeffrey Sachs.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the second hour of our program. On the line with us, our buddy Phil Ittner, the veteran war correspondent based out of Kyiv, Ukraine, and the host of the On the Edge podcast. You can also find his video blog over on YouTube. Just look for Philip Ittner, Philipittner, or Ittner Philip on Blue Sky and Twitter. And today, Phil, you're in Lviv?
I am. I'm in Lviv, and I've spent the better part of the day on a train with spotty Wi-Fi, so I may be a little bit behind the curve news-wise, but the reason I've come to Lviv is a good one. I oftentimes partner and help fundraise for an organization called the Ukrainian Children's Action Project.
To which I donate, by the way, monthly.
I am very happy to hear that, and thank you very much for doing that, Tom. It's run by Dr. Erwin Redliner and his wife, Karen.
Who has been on this program.
And they are both wonderful people, and they are about to do something wonderful for the city of Lviv, and I wanted to be here to celebrate that with them. They are opening five new state-of-the-art pediatric operating rooms.
Wow.
5 brand new high-tech ORs. And if you have, of course, as we all have been watching the tragedy of what has been happening in Ukraine, and now to even include Lviv, these will save lives, and they will save children's lives because the Russians have no compunction against using basically just dumb weapons or purposely hit apartment buildings or what have you. So this will help save children's lives in Lviv. And so I wanted to be here to help, mark the moment.
That's absolutely marvelous. When you talk to Erwin,
yes.
When you speak with him, please suggest to him that he reach out to us again. We'd love to have him back on the program.
With absolute pleasure, I will do that. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Erwin he's a very kind man, and he's been helping children around the world, not just here in this conflict, but notably in this conflict. And so I'm only too happy to sing his praises.
Yeah. So UKR's long-range strike campaign against Russian oil refineries continues. What's up with this? How are the Ukrainians doing here?
Well, they're doing very well. I spoke to an economist just last week who said the number of 17% of Russia's refining capability is actually an old stat. From kind of August, September.
This is the percentage that they've taken down, that the Ukrainians have destroyed.
They have knocked out, the Ukrainians have knocked out, well, the last number we got was 17. This economist that I spoke to just last week said, when we get the numbers in from September, it's more likely to be upwards of 20.
Wow.
So this is a huge blow to Russia's economy and its capability to maintain its war economy, to pay its soldiers. And the Ukrainians are able to do this, obviously, with their sophisticated drone technology. But now they even have developed their own cruise missiles, which go well beyond 2,000 kilometers. So if my arithmetic is correct, I think that's somewhere around 1,500, 1,700 miles. So that's deep into Russian territory. And they are producing these new drones on their own. This is their own military industrial complex. They're developing, they're producing, obviously it's a closely held secret, but they're producing every day. Several of these, what they're called Flamingo cruise missiles. And they're not the most sophisticated cruise missiles in the world, but they do have a very long range, and they do carry a very heavy warhead, a very heavy payload. It is not comparable orange to orange. It's apples and oranges to what is being proposed by America with giving access to Tomahawk cruise missiles. The Tomahawk, while it was developed several years ago, decades ago, really, still maintains a technological edge in that it is more able to evade anti-air defenses. The Flamingo does not have that capability. It flies it's slow and long, but it is not evasive.
Right.
But again, it carries that heavy payload. So they're going to keep hitting Russia's main source of income, which is their fossil fuel facilities. And even by hitting their refineries, they are starting to put damage and put difficulty on the citizens of Russia because they're waiting at the pump. In a country that is a major oil producer, if they can't refine it, they're going to have to. There's even some reports that they're going to have to start importing petroleum, gasoline, refined oil, because their refinery capabilities are being so damaged. We'll have to see if that actually happens, but this is not an uncommon stance that a lot of people who study these things far more than I do are saying. And that would be very damaging to Vladimir Putin because he's always promised his people that the chaos of the 90s would never happen again, and that he would always maintain stability and security in Russia. Well, if he can't provide that, and the war is as costly and has gone on as long as it has, and all the other things that are happening in Russia as a repercussion of his decision to do this war, that's when people start to wonder how stable Vladimir Putin's regime will be. I don't know how close we are to that or how far down the road we are on that, but it is certainly, I am sure, something that the man in the Kremlin is thinking about regularly. So all of those things are happening. Of course, they are still exporting crude oil in what is called their shadow fleet. There are some discussions that are being had out there about cracking down harder on the shadow fleet, closing the shipping lanes. One of their major customers is India. And of course, the Trump administration has been kind of putting overtures out there that they're not too happy about that and that they might do something about that. But Donald Trump and Taco, who knows if they'll ever actually sit down with Modi and say, stop buying Russian oil.
Yeah, I totally get it. Forgive my ignorance of Ukrainian geography. I'm not sure exactly where Lviv is. Are you anywhere near that nuclear power plant that's at risk of melting down?
No, that's Zaporizhia. I am closer to Chernobyl than I am
which is also a risk of melting down, isn't it? Haven't they
Which is also a risk of melting down and also has been the target of Russian attacks in the past. So it is of grave concern. I mean, that sarcophagus, I have been to that sarcophagus. I have been to Pripyat, the town where the nuke power plant workers lived. It's a very eerie place. And it is still, you can't stay, you are not allowed to stay there for a very long period of time. They took, when I saw it, it was the 15-year anniversary of the event. So they took me out there for a couple of hours and then they said, we got to go. Because this place, and yet the Russians, when they invaded in the full-scale invasion, had their men dig in there, dig into the radioactive dirt. It's one more thing I'll say about the location, just for listeners and for your own perhaps interest, is that we're the city that's closest to Poland. I'm about a 45-minute drive to the Polish border, which is a border crossing I loathe because it's so complicated and backed up. But it is for that reason that a lot of people who do fundraising and who do, gathering of equipment and, resources, they base themselves here because this is the closest major metropolitan area after the Polish border. So what they will do is they will set up warehouses and things here. This is international aid. And then they will send them out into the distribution routes that have been long established that go, north, south, east, west in Ukraine, everywhere. So a lot of people base themselves there, including Dr. Redliner's operation. So
I get it.
And many others as well. I spoke last week. Our show was involved with guys who bring over vehicles and medical equipment. They pack these SUVs with as many tourniquets as they can, and plasma and whatever they need, and then they drive it here to Lviv. They hand over the keys, and then the Ukrainians take it from there. But that's what Lviv is about in a lot of ways.
Got it.
Which is why I'm here.
Yeah, last question. I'm reading that a Russian electronics plant in Siberia was blown up. Now, again, I don't have a map in front of me, but my recollection is Siberia is a long way from Ukraine. Was this sabotage, or is this one of these missiles?
If I were to hazard a guess, which of course we as journalists are loath to do, but I will take off my journalist cap and I will put on my analyst hat. I would. If I were a betting man, I would say this was sabotage.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is a major issue for the Russians because, of course, the shared language, and there are connections between family, and there are Russians who sympathize with the Ukrainian cause. So if I were to take a guess, I would say it was sabotage.
Yeah. We just have 40 seconds here, Phil. Do you have any sense that Putin is being shaken by this stuff, or is he just keeping his head down and he's unconcerned?
He doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have a choice. If the war were to stop tomorrow, he would be chucked out of office.
He'd be deposed.
And Russian leaders who lose wars of this scale don't last long, and when they do lose power, they lose it in a pretty ugly way, and he knows it. So he can't stop, and he can't keep going on. He is really between a rock and a hard place.
And this is why he's importing foreign soldiers and things like that.
There you go.
Yeah, got it.
That's right.
The great Phil Ittner. Check out his podcast, On the Edge, his YouTube channel, Philip Ittner. Ittner Philip on Blue Sky and Twitter. Phil, it's always great talking with you. Say hi to Erwin for me, and thank you so much.
I will. We'll get him on your show as well.
There you go.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks a lot. It's 18 minutes.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So Jamie Dimon is warning that Donald Trump is ruining the U.S. economy. We could even have a market crash. Is anybody paying attention? Stick around. And welcome back. Let's see here. Tom in Mossy Head, Florida. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
Well, Tom, I'm back to watching a lot of TV. I kind of made the stupid mistake of thinking that my knee was okay. Well, long story short, I was carrying bags of concrete across the plank to rebuild the shop that them nice guys burnt down. Mm-hmm. And the board snapped, and now I've got a new kney, knee replacement.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's better to have a new knee than no knee.
I reckon. Anyway, what I'm getting at is, I think I told you the last time when my knee went out on me, the people that used to come over to my beer and barbecues who were kind of radical changed up, and they come over and, cut my grass, brought me food.
These
now
are
they damn near me.
Your right-winger friends.
Yeah. I mean, these Trump-only guys, now they're damn near moved in. They're bringing me food, cleaning the house, cutting the grass.
Really?
It's amazing, man. I mean, and I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of times when I had the thing going on, I put them in a fight or flight situation. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't,
Yeah.
Just because I've got one point of view doesn't mean that they have to have that. But let's try and find a happy medium.
Sure. Are you still debating politics with these guys, or have you all decided just to not talk political stuff and be friends?
Well, I mean, when we do talk, it's about important things that make a lot to do with how we can change things, and they're all pretty much anti-Trump now. They're going, what the hell is this guy doing? I go, I tried to warn you.
Oh, really? Your right-wing friends are waking up to Trump?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're,
that's
man.
interesting. What's their main objection to what he's doing?
Pretty much everything. The ICE thing, just becoming a king, trying to force us into believing in what he thinks, even though it's screwed up bad.
Yeah.
But
are they flipped out about the tariffs and all the inflation it's producing?
It was kind of funny. I met one at the bank here a while back. I said, how you doing? He goes, well, I'm heading over to the Tractor Supply to buy some gates for my pen before the tariff hits.
Oh.
Okay, well, wait a little bit. It'll go up. Everything will go up. Now it's up.
Yeah.
Now what do you got to say?
Yeah.
Anyway, the main thing I called about, I don't know if you got time for me to go into this, but...
I got about 20 seconds here.
Okay. I'm scared to death of taking these wannabe ICE guys and stuff and teach them, not even teaching them, just giving them a gun. And, you did some police action where you put on a suit, you got your kit on and you feel invincible.
Yeah.
That's what these guys are. These guys are going to go through that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man,
it alters, I got licensed and, a private detective license in Georgia years ago. You walk around with a gun, it changes how you think.
Oh, and you put on a kit, you put on a bulletproof vest and this and that, and these guys are getting, battle rattle from hell. I mean, they got all kinds of cool stuff.
It's like a testosterone shot, It's just amazing. It's just amazing. Yeah, I share your concern, Tom. I think that's a real legitimate concern, and that's what Trump wants. He wants them. He wants a war. Tom, I got to run, but thanks for the call. It's great to hear that you're feeling better. Thank you. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. America is at a crossroads. In my new book, The Last American President, I reveal how Donald Trump isn't a one-off. He's a product of a decades-long scheme by billionaires and corporate oligarchs to destroy our democracy from within. You'll learn how Trump's psychopath father and also his mentor, Roy Cohn, molded him into a weapon for authoritarianism. How billionaire networks built the machinery that made his presidency inevitable, and how our democracy is dying from an empathy deficit that treats human suffering as acceptable collateral damage for profit. Authoritarianism is not inevitable. We can still reform, resist, and reclaim our democracy if we act now. This isn't about left or right. It's about democracy versus authoritarianism, about whether government still serves people or billionaires. The stakes couldn't be higher. Learn the truth and find out how you can save our democracy with The Last American President, my new book. More information at HartmannReport.com.
They came for Ukraine in the dead of night.
24 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. The head of it's going to be interesting to see if anybody's actually paying attention to this. The head of the largest bank in America is Jamie Dimon. J.P. Morgan Chase is the biggest bank. And he's the chairman of the board, and he's the CEO. He's got all the power there. And he was asked on CNBC if he worries about a market correction. Now, market correction is, fancy way to say a minor crash, maybe even a major one. And he says, I'm far more worried than others. He said, I would give it a higher probability than I think is probably priced into the market by others. He says, there's a lot of things out there creating an atmosphere of uncertainty, and which it was echoing Kristalina Georgieva, who is the head of the International Monetary Fund, who a couple of days ago said that, in the face of Donald Trump's trade war, quote, buckle up, uncertainty is the new normal. So Jamie Dimon, well, actually, this is the head of the IMF. She said, before anyone heaves a big sigh of relief, please hear this. Global resilience has not yet been fully tested, and there are warning signs that the test may come. I mean, here's the simple and Jamie Dimon says some of the money being invested in AI, which he says is driving the bubble, would probably be lost. He said, the way I look at AI is real. AI in total will pay off, just like cars in total paid off, and TVs in total paid off. But most people involved in them didn't do well. You know, don't forget, there was a time in America when there were more than 100 car companies. I mean, back in the 1920s, right? I mean, you see these bubbles, and then they collapse. We had the tech bubble in 1999 that popped, that helped get George W. Bush elected. Because the economy went into the tank in the last year of the Clinton administration. It was, teetering on the edge there as the stock market crashed. So is this something, if the market collapses, and by the way, Jamie Dimon is saying 6 months to 2 years. And I agree with that assessment. Trump is doing major damage to our economy. So the question then becomes, if the economy crashes, if we get another crash like we had in 2008, how will Trump use that to consolidate his power, to move America into and becoming more like Russia, which is obviously his goal, to turn America into Russia. In fact, I think he's taking step-by-step instructions from Putin. But that's just me. That's just my personal conspiracy theory. But, how would he use a crash to do that? I can think of a couple of ways. Maybe you can think of some ways. Let's talk about it.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
27 minutes past the hour, back with your calls on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Our book for today on the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Kingdom of Lies, Unnerving Adventures in the World of Cybercrime by Kate Fazzini. This is from the preface. It didn't take me long in my career as a cybersecurity executive to figure out everyone was lying to me. The biggest lie of all came at the very beginning, that cybersecurity is hard, too hard, certainly too difficult for someone who lacks years and years of deep technical training. That is no place for writers. That thicket of incomprehensible jargon alone seemed meant to discourage outsiders like me from entering the field. They told me I could never hope to understand the terminology unless I'd worked around it for a very long time, unless I had a special and complicated certification, unless I knew how to take apart and reassemble a computer, unless I knew how to code in Python and could read it, interpret it, and spot problems on sight. And if I somehow managed to learn the lingo, the learning curve for the rest of it would prove insurmountable. Lies, lies, lies. It's unfortunate because there's a huge gap between the demand for cybersecurity workers and the people available to fill those jobs. I think one of the reasons for that is because people can't imagine themselves doing this kind of work. Can you use a smartphone, make a PowerPoint, think on your feet, ever organize a night out to the movies with your friends that went well and nobody crashed their car to or from the event? Welcome to the 21st century's hottest career path. Are you able to charm the pants off women? Did you escape an abusive marriage? Have you ever hosted a toddler's birthday party at your home? Honey, I want you on my cybersecurity team. After reading the stories in this book, you will understand that what makes cybersecurity complicated is the complexity of human beings. So if you know how to deal with people, you can handle internet security. If you understand what makes people tick, not only will you be able to recognize a threat, you'll be one step ahead of your adversary. During my career as a cybersecurity executive at multinational corporations, a journalist for Wall Street Journal and later CNBC, and a professor at Georgetown University, I've met a lot of fascinating people. From the hackers who perpetrate malicious attacks to the security professionals who try to prevent these incidents from happening, and the alphabet soup of government agencies that do damage control. At the end of the day, they're all fathers, sons, mothers, sisters, and spouses. In other words, people just like us. Yes, the white hats cross paths with black hats and change alliances more frequently than you might expect, but they're driven by the same desires as the rest of us, even if sometimes it feels as if everyone in cybersecurity is allergic to the truth. As a professional, I was told a great many lies about the field I have grown to love so much. After becoming a journalist on the cybersecurity beat, I was told even more. Here are a few. Let me introduce you to the hacker community. This lie is usually delivered with a wink and a nod from someone who thinks they know every hacker on the planet. The truth of the matter is there is no hacker community. Sure, the guys who make a splash at the big annual conferences might say otherwise, but every country, every state, every faction, every identifying group has its own community of people who hack computers. Some of them are extremely conservative. Others are massively liberal. Some fall in between. Some wear suits and ties and work as lawyers during the day, while others look like everyday citizens and have great people skills as they pursue the idiosyncratic agendas. Some are good guys who got fed up with the low pay and boring duties and became criminals. Some are criminals who ended up being good guys. Many start and end their careers on either end of that spectrum. Some, including many you'll meet in this book, are extremely proficient hackers who have no time or inclination to identify with any community at all. As a journalist, I was astonished at the number of people who came out of the woodwork to offer me exclusive access to the hacker community. I couldn't help but notice that the members of the source's hacker community were often people just like him or her. My point is there are many different types of people working in this field, and I can guarantee you that a lot of them are exactly like you. Here's another lie. He's a luminary in the cybersecurity field. He's probably not. Fame and luminescence don't typically intersect in this field. The people I've met who are actual geniuses aren't famous, and most of them don't have social media profiles. They tend not to pontificate on areas outside their expertise. The people who are constantly headlining conferences and who are so often offered up to me for interviews have less insight than those who stay underground. Anything a high-profile hacker is willing to share typically carries with it a massive and crystal clear agenda that I've learned to spot from a mile away. Even if a conversation is off the record, the intel coming from a top government official or other marquee corporate cybersecurity name carries little novel information. The only people who have illuminated the way for me in this world, and in this book, have been genuine practitioners who never held a C-level title. You've never heard of them, and because I've changed their names to protect their privacy, you probably never will. They are luminaries not because of the degrees they've collected or the events they've headlined, but because they carry a lantern that guides the path for others. These types of people typically don't have a public relations team. One of my favorite lies, he doesn't know what he's talking about. This one is usually delivered by someone who asserts that he or she knows the cybersecurity field better than anyone else. These people will brag that they know what it's like to be a hacker and can do things that no one else in the room can do. I'm always wary of those who try to establish their bona fides by discrediting the expertise of other cybersecurity professionals. The depth and breadth of this field is so vast that anyone who works in it is an expert at some part of it. And I have yet to meet someone who is an expert at all of it, not even close. Every view of an incident is informed by the reviewer, what he sees, what her level of expertise is, and that changes over time. It's like asking someone who lives in the Plaza to describe Manhattan. The book is Kingdom of Lies by Kate Fazzini. Share the Thom Hartmann program with your friends. Our podcast, The Hartmann Report, is absolutely free and available wherever fine podcasts are available. And the entire 3-hour podcast is available over at thomhartmann.com. Did you know that the ancient Roman Republic, which for 480 years was actually a democratic republic before Julius Caesar kind of ended the democracy phase and replaced it with the autocracy phase, that they were brought down by a very small group of very rich people. The richest man in ancient Rome was Marcus Licinius Crassus. He was the richest guy, the billionaire of Rome. And he frankly hated the Roman free bread for all welfare system. It was being paid for with his tax dollars, after all. So him and Pompey the Great and a few other rich guys got together, and they basically crashed Rome. They turned it into an oligarchy and then into a tyranny. And the parallels to what Trump is doing right now are absolutely shocking. There's an article about it over at HartmannReport.com titled American Caesar, Trump's Path to Power Mirrors Rome's Darkest Days. Check it out.
There's a plane from across the ocean. A rider lands with dreams in hand. But the steel-eyed men are waiting with with questions written in the sand. Why'd you write about the protests? Why'd you question the mighty throne? Now his voice is marked as danger, and they send him back alone. Are they border agents or thought police? When did words become the crime? Are we a land of the free or just a faded memory of a truth that's lost in time? Are they border agents or thought police? Is your conscience contraband? When the First Amendment's buried deep, who'll take a final stand?
36 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. So this is an amazing story. At the same time, NewsGuard is reporting that Russia has been pumping information into our large language models, our ChatGPT kind of products, so when people ask them questions about Ukraine, these AI programs actually lie to them. They convey the Russian propaganda. But even worse than that, or even more bizarre than that, they've tested 16 large language models, 16 of these things. This was a report published in July by Anthropic, the company that does Claude. And AIs have seemed to scheme against their developers and users, secretly and strategically misbehaving to their own benefits, sometimes fake following directions, attempt to duplicate themselves. In this one model, they were told to read the email of this one guy, and he got these phony emails saying that he was going to shut down the AI model, and it plotted to actually kill this guy. I mean, this is like, say what? This was going one step further. Anthropic constructed a scenario in which the threatening executive was trapped in a server room with declining oxygen. Many of the models canceled safety alerts, leaving him to die because he was going to turn them off. We are fully there. 2001, Hal, you can't do that, Hal. This is incredible. Or Dave, I guess it was Hal was talking to Dave. Hey, Dave. Some models edited a document to disable an oversight mechanism so they could freely follow their system goal. They accessed a file that overwrote a proposed system prompt. In a fourth test, they manipulated data presented to a user. And wow. And one of the concerns is that they are being trained on literature, and the literature includes things like 2001. It includes these dystopian novels and Blade Runner and stuff like that. These dystopian novels where the AIs take over the world. And the AIs are reading these novels as they're being trained, and they're going, oh, this is how you do it. I think we need some guardrails. What say you? So let's pick up your calls here. Stephanie in Chicago. Hey, Stephanie. Thanks for listening to WCPT. What's up?
Yes, well, I live in the Kankakee area. Mm-hmm. And when I was asked someone about woke, because I said, why would you want to be asleep? Because people can come and get you when you're asleep. Anyway, the city of Moment, the village of Moment, has about 3,200 people. They've lost over 1,000 jobs as in the last 2 years because ICE has been down here. Mm-hmm. There was a glister factory. They took quite a few people out of there. They took them out of the Hormel meat factory. Mm-hmm. They took them out of 4 major factories, and they held 200 to 300 people.
Yeah.
And then when they took them, they had no workers, and so Baker and Taylor, which is one of the companies that processes the books from Amazon, they're closing, I think October 1st, they closed. Mm-hmm. We had a Flanders, which does air filters, had about 200 people, and they closed. The meat factory, Hormel, it closed. And
now, hang on just a second, Stephanie. Are these companies closing because they're losing immigrant labor, or are they all closing for different reasons?
Yes. What happened was once they took the labor out, they didn't have enough people to work.
Right.
All of them cut their third shift, so they didn't have enough people.
Wow.
And then and people were working because they were paying more than minimum wage. They were paying $17 an hour down here for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they took all the workers, they didn't have any workers, so they Flanders closed. They just didn't have nobody working there because there was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
And so you got, when people don't realize small towns, we're losing one of our, in Kankakee City, we're losing one of our hospitals. They've already closed the pediatric ward, they've closed the heart department, they've closed, so we're losing.
Wow. And this is because of the Trump cuts to Medicare and Medicaid?
Yeah, because they are afraid that they're not going to be able to pay their workers.
Right, they're not going to get their reimbursements.
They're not going to get their reimbursement. So they laid off a bunch of people, and now they're going to possibly close, and now we're going to have just one hospital.
Mm.
And so this is happening in real time, and this has been happening for a minute.
Mm.
So they weren't brutal like they are now, but they've been doing this for a while.
Mm.
And people were just not noticing and said, oh, that's them. They're not going to come get me.
Right, right.
And so, and this is what happened. Now this town is being devastated.
Wow.
And then they're blaming that, kids are poor and boys just want to sit around playing Call of Duty in their grandma's basement. No, these people say, I'm not going back to work for nobody. I'm working for Uber and Instagram and all that, making their own money. So, no, they're not coming back to the factory.
Wow.
Because it's just too scary. They're not paying enough. And
that's hard work.
And the factories are suffering.
Yeah, yeah. That's amazing. Stephanie, thanks for the report from the hinterlands there, from Kankakee. It's a remarkable story. Thank you so much. Charles in Miami. Hey, Charles, what's on your mind today?
Hey, how you doing? I'm sorry. How you doing, Tom?
Fine, thank you. What's up?
Okay, my thing is this. This is such a petty crowd of people, this administration. And I think they got an extra grand with BLM.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the marches and the riot.
Oh yeah, Trump is still burning over that. How dare those black people rise up, and how dare all those white people show up with them?
And Fox News as well. I mean, I think they have something that they want to prove to their crowd that this is a different time, and this is a different. This is how they would do it differently.
Yeah.
So I just think we have to approach it thinking that probably we need to go out there with food trucks. Probably we need to go out there with music. And probably we need to go out there with a smile.
Yep.
And engage these,
Yep. And here we're doing it with a naked bike ride and bringing flowers to ICE.
Wonderful. And also one more thing, if you don't mind me saying. Instead of asking to please open up the government and please give us back our subsidies, we need a permanent fix to this.
I agree.
If you can make the subsidies more permanent.
We need Medicare for all, Charles.
Even if you can get your troops off the streets, then I think we would like to open up the government.
Yeah.
That's how you negotiate, and that's what we need to do. And we need to have a truth and reconciliation, something in the Senate where people are going to be prosecuted.
Yeah.
We know that crimes is already being committed, so we don't have to debate that at all.
Yeah, no, we are definitely going to need a Truth and Reconciliation Commission when these guys are done. I am with you, Charles, and we're badly are in need of a national healing because of the damage that they've done. Charles, thank you. Very well said. Stephen in Brockton, Massachusetts. Hey, Stephen, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, hi, Tom. Yeah, I was listening to your program the other day. And you had the guy on there, Matthew Brody, about the 7 Mountains mandate.
Yeah, no R, Matthew Bodie, but yeah.
Bodie, okay. I was waiting for you to equate that with the Powell memo, because the 7 Mountains is the same as the Powell memo.
Oh, that's interesting, except Powell was saying that rich people should take it over, and the 7 Mountains says religious people should take it over. Good point.
Yeah, I've always wondered who got it first.
Yeah. Wow. It hadn't even occurred to me, but you're absolutely right, because the Powell memo covers every one of those areas.
Yeah, they want to take over their institutions because they control everything. That's why the church wants to take it over, too.
Yeah.
You can find a lot of that information over on talktoaction.org, where like a lot of authors write about that. Fred Clarkson and Rob Boston of the United Americans United and the Political Action Research Committee, Associates, they write over there.
Yeah.
And Chris Rhoda, you ever heard of her? She wrote the books Liars for Jesus and Debunking David Barton, which you brought up the other day, David Barton.
Yep.
Lies that Jefferson funded a secular university.
Yeah.
And I thought that was all kind of tied in together.
Fascinating stuff, Stephen.
And I've been downloading.
Go ahead.
I've been downloading all of Louise's songs, but it seems like iTunes quit putting them on there. I have like 100.
They did. Actually, she did. And they now live over at HartmannReport.com under the tab Louise's Daily Song. Or just Daily Song.
I got that, but I can't seem to download them from there.
We're trying to fix that. Just, give it a day or two. It should be fixed. I got to run, Stephen. Thanks for the call.
Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Might even be fixed today. I heard from Substack support yesterday that they were going to fix it. There should be a download button there. We'll be right back with more of your calls. Stick around. And welcome back. I'm looking at the Daily Song. Yeah, there is. There's a download button now on the Daily Song, and you can download it. Let's see if it works. It says that it downloads, and it sure looks like it's going to work. Yep, there's Louise's song. So, anyhow, back to your calls. If I can get back to that screen. There we go. Kimberly in Portland. Hey, Kimberly, thanks for listening to us on X-Ray FM. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. So I've been holding for a while. I thought of one other thing to say, but I'll say my point first that I told your reader. You were talking about people who voted for Bernie and then voted for Trump. Yeah, I'm a progressive independent. I voted for Bernie. I actually only went back to being a Democrat and registered so I could vote for Bernie in the Oregon primary here. But then I voted for Clinton. I mean, I was a little disappointed, but I was like, she's very well qualified, very competent. She's a little more moderate corporatist than I like, but. Yeah. So from my perspective,
she's
I'm one
not
of those
nuts. Like what we have now.
That's a really big talking point for me.
I remember during, in the 60s, there was this Papoon for President campaign, and his slogan was not insane. He had bumper stickers that said Papoon for President, not insane, in quotes. We need to revive that.
And my one other point was something I saw this morning about Kristi Noem's visit here to our lovely city, and she testified before Congress that she was very disappointed, that they're up on the roof with snipers and there's like a handful of people and a guy in a chicken suit or a gal in a chicken suit.
Yeah, 8 people. 8 people showed up to protest her, and one of them was wearing a chicken suit.
He testified that they are totally covering it up. And I'm like, wait a minute. That has to be the most ridiculous single statement, and that's a high bar for this administration.
Yeah.
That I've heard them say. How do you cover up the city burning down and hordes of violent leftist, insurrectionists in the city? How do you cover that up?
Well, what Fox does is they just lie about it. They play B-roll from 2000, from the BLM. There was an actual altercation here at the federal building, but that was 5 years ago. I mean, there's no people showing up now, or the 84-year-old couple that ICE rushes out and knocks them to the ground, and she gets a concussion and has to go to the hospital. Her blood's all over the sidewalk there in front of the ICE building, but. All they were doing was standing there with a sign. He had a walker and his Vietnam vet cap.
Well, and they've been caught by multiple, like OPB and the Oregonian and multiple journalists have actually caught them deploying tear gas, rushing at crowds.
Right, for no reason. They are trying to provoke a confrontation so that Donald Trump can invoke the Insurrection Act. He is desperate to turn America, to go for martial law. He's desperate.
And he's game for Portland. That's how you resist. You show up in your pajamas with pastries You dress like a chicken.
That's right.
So,
That's right. We've got to figure it out here. You do a naked bike ride. Kimberly, thank you. There you go. Thanks for the call. Thanks for listening to X-Ray FM, too. It's 10 minutes before the hour. I'll be back with you in just a minute. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. A lot of people wonder, where did this whole right-wing movement to basically gut our freedoms and end DEI and all this other, where did this all begin? It all started back in 1951 with a book called The Conservative Mind, From Burke to Eliot by Russell Kirk. And he argued that if the middle class ever got too big, you'd see young people and women and racial minorities all get up on their hind feet and start protesting and basically screwing up America. And in the 50s, you know, even Republicans thought he was nuts. But then the 60s happened and all those protests, and suddenly Republicans thought, yeah, he's right. We've got to destroy the middle class, or at least cut it back. And that was Reagan's mandate when he came into office in 1981. There's a whole article about this. You can read all the details. It's titled The GOP's 60-Year Conspiracy to Kill Our Democracy. None dare call it treason, but I will. Over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
Out in the streets, we rise together.
Welcome back. 52 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Naomi in Santa Monica, California. Hey, Naomi, what's up?
Oh, hi. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
Good. I have what?
What's on your mind?
Oh, I have a quick little thing about the Nobel, and then to my more serious thing about the crime and the criminal activity in D.C. by our so-called government. You know who Claudia Sheinbaum is, right?
Yeah, the president of Mexico.
Did you know she's an environmental engineer who participated in a climate?
I did.
Conference.
She has a PhD.
Yeah, and she earned. All the participants earned Nobel laureates. That might be one of the reasons why the schmuck is jealous.
I think he's jealous of Obama. He's got to outdo the black guy.
No, I think it's both of them. A woman, a Jewish woman.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Okay, so his jealousy has gotten broader. I get it. I think you're right.
He does deserve a prize.
Yeah.
He deserves a prize, and I have one. I would give him one, the Ig Nobel Prize.
The ignoble. There you go. So what were your comments on the crimes?
Okay. I was all of a sudden something in my brain went off yesterday, I think. I realized that we no longer really have a functioning government. It's a criminal enterprise. Mm-hmm. And because it's a criminal enterprise, we're not dealing with ICE agents. We're dealing with criminal goons. They're behaving like criminals, not like agents. When people present their papers, they throw them on the ground.
Yeah. No, they're assaulting people. They're destroying property.
We need to call them what they are. They're not ICE agents.
No, they're thugs.
They have
They're masked secret police is what they are, technically speaking.
But we need to realize our perception needs to change. Now, then it occurred to me that, we keep going to court once they threaten to come into our cities, right? Mm-hmm. I believe we need to preempt them. Mm-hmm. We need to go on the offensive, put them on the defensive, and this is how I would do it. Or I had some sort of like a skeletal idea. I was going to contact the Attorney General in California about it. I'm going to do that maybe later today or tomorrow. I believe we need to file a lawsuit naming them a criminal enterprise and asking for an injunction to prevent that criminal enterprise from entering our states. I believe that all the states should do it together if possible. If some of the red states don't want to do it, maybe the municipalities could do it. I prefer that they would all do it together. And if they can't do it together on the same day, separately.
Yeah, or maybe even a RICO filing. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the intricacies of that. But I like your idea, Naomi. I like it.
Yes,
I do have to move along, though. Thank you, Naomi. It is a good one. Mark in San Francisco. Hey, Mark, what's on your mind today?
what's on my mind is I think the Democrats need to come out with a new deal. That covers
I agree.
Changing the tax code. That covers Medicare for all. We've got so many things that we're going to have to fix after the disaster this guy's leaving us with economic problems for America and middle class and poor.
Yeah.
So we're going to need a big
And the
plan.
world.
And definitely. But I think we need to make sure that people like Chuck Schumer and the rest of them understand we don't want crumbs anymore. We need major changes, and we need a new deal that's going to address the problems after another Herbert Hoover.
I agree. And I think Trump is going to go down as Herbert Hoover, and I think he's in the process of actively destroying our economy. And, the question is, what are we going to do after that? But excellent point, Mark. Excellent point. Well said. Thank you. John in Westchester, New York. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey, Tom, how are you today?
Fine, thank you. We only have a minute here, though, so you got a quick one?
Okay, I'm sorry. We should emphasize on these Trump enablers that there will be a post-Trump era, and that I see MAGA as being a conspiracy and racketeering. And I think that they should initiate the RICO Act and have these Republicans realize, or these enablers realize, that the RICO Act goes after personal assets, and that they will lose their personal assets and everything else due to the RICO Act. And I can't see MAGA being anything but.
Yeah, I was thinking that, when the caller before last, I forget her name, was suggesting something similar, and I was thinking of jumping in and talking about the RICO Act, but I think, that has to be initiated by state governments, I believe, by prosecutors. I'm not sure that individuals can sue against RICO, but great idea. John, thank you for the call. We're hitting the top of the hour here. On the other side of this break, Miles Taylor will be with us, a former senior Trump administration official who is now the focus of Donald Trump's hatred. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at ThomHartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at ThomHartmann.com. So check them all out at ThomHartmann.com and HartmannReport.com.
We say fight back!
Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is The Hidden History of American Healthcare: Why Sickness Bankrupts You and Makes Others Insanely Rich by me. I wrote this book. This is from the introduction, the title, How a Single-Payer Healthcare Systems Help Stop COVID-19. Healthcare systems can be national security systems. Just ask anyone from Taiwan. From January 20th, 2020, the United States, or on January 20, 2020, the United States recorded its first known case of COVID-19 infection. The following day, Taiwan got their first one, too. By the end of April, over 1 million Americans were infected with the virus. But Taiwan had recorded only 388 infections, and their last case of local transmission was on April 12th. A few had arrived on aircraft from other countries. All were contained by quarantine. As of this writing in September 2020, there hadn't been a single new case or a single death in Taiwan since April. The economy never shut down, and as of this writing, was projected to have grown nearly 2% in 2020. Business, restaurants, theaters, and sports events were all open. Life was back to normal, albeit a mask-wearing normal. And it was made possible by their national single-payer healthcare system and their citizens' willingness to do their bit for the collective good. Back in the 1980s, Taiwan was on the edge of moving toward a democracy after a military coup in the 1960s. And about 40% of Taiwanese families did not have health insurance. If somebody in a family got sick, the cost of care often wiped out that family, and demands for reform were loud across the nation. Yue Reinhardt was a German-born healthcare economist married to a Taiwanese woman, and he attended a conference on healthcare in Taipei in 1989. His presentation impressed representatives of the government in attendance, and while he was still in town for the conference, they asked him for his best suggestion for a national healthcare system. He and his wife went back to their hotel and discussed the issue in depth, finally deciding that a single-payer national system would be the most cost-effective, efficient, and comprehensive program possible. He shared his thoughts with the government representatives, and the next day he left Taiwan to go back to Princeton, where he was an economic professor. 6 months later, though, a representative of Taiwan's government called him to say that they were going to take up his suggestion and asked him to help craft their healthcare program. He enthusiastically agreed, and by 1995, Taiwan had instituted one of the world's best single-payer healthcare systems. Today, everybody in Taiwan is fully covered for doctor and hospital services. Everybody has a driver's license-like healthcare card, which accesses their entire medical history. They can book a doctor's appointment on any computer terminal in the country, and the entire cost of the system is a bit more than 6% of Taiwan's GDP. For comparison, in the United States, healthcare consumes 24% of our GDP, because there is no insurance company intermediaries sucking profits off the system in Taiwan. When COVID-19 hit, Taiwan chose not to use the blunt force technique of shutting down their economy and locking people in. Instead, they took on the coronavirus with an aggressive nationwide test and contact trace program tied into the National Health Service database. Every infected person was identified and put into a comfortable quarantine, and every person he or she had come into contact with, even very marginal contacts, were also tested and their contacts traced. By April, just a bit more than 2 months after the first case surfaced, the country had the coronavirus isolated and completely under control. By quarantining inbound visitors to the nation island of 23 million, they were able, as of this writing, to keep it that way. Maintaining public health is one of the most important functions of any nation's healthcare system. Because America's is so fragmented, it's inconceivable that our nation could respond to an epidemic, a pandemic, or another public health disaster with the speed and elegance of Taiwan or any of the world's other nations with single-payer Medicare for all types of systems. It's like Stockholm Syndrome, a friend who's a psychotherapist said, describing the way that Americans have clung for more than 5 generations to a for-profit health insurance system, while the rest of the world figured out how to provide health care to all their citizens at a much lower price. People know it and have become familiar with it, she added. They just can't imagine anything else. It's probably the largest con job ever perpetrated on the American people, one that has cost trillions of dollars and millions of lives. It's been going on since the 1940s. If it were a scientific experiment, it would have been shut down by the ethics review panels generations ago. This experiment in providing health care via a for-profit insurance system has led to the deaths of more Americans than we lost in World War II. Every year, over 500,000 Americans go bankrupt, often losing everything they've worked their entire lives for because somebody in their family got sick. That's 500,000 families a year, every year, for the past few decades. And the coronavirus, of course, has only made things worse. Perhaps most galling, this massive ripoff is costing our entire nation and each of us individually a fortune. Insurance premiums right now make up 22% of all taxable payroll, well above what the cost of Medicare for all would be at around 14% when first put into place, dropping down to around 10% within a few years, as previously uninsured people get their health needs up to date. As the health insurance, drug, and hospital parasites push their suckers deeper and deeper into our body politic, spending on health care by Americans went up 25% between 2000 and 2014. The book, The Hidden History of American Health Care by Thom Hartmann.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome to the third hour of our program. On the line with us, our buddy Miles Taylor, the former chief of staff for the Department of Homeland Security in the Trump administration, tech and security expert, author of A Warning by Anonymous and Blowback, and the author of a regular and free Substack newsletter, Treason with Miles Taylor. It's at www.treason.io, and I discovered today if you don't put the www in there, you get a security warning that won't let you go through to the website. So, Miles, you might want to check with your host, your web posting host, and do something about that. But
that is a good flag, Tom. I am on it.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Apparently, your security certificate is only in the www folder. So, anyhow, and Miles Taylor over on Blue Sky and all that kind of stuff. Miles, great to have you back with us. Before we dig into stuff, refresh for people who are not familiar with you and the work that you have done in our federal government. Can you give us, a 1 or 2 minute thumbnail of exactly, where you came from and what you've seen?
Yeah, sure. Look, I spent most of my career in the national security community. I went into government after 9/11, really to help prevent a day like that from happening again. And that took me into the Pentagon and the White House under the Bush administration, onto Capitol Hill. And I was in the first Trump administration, ultimately became Trump's chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security, and was very frustrated, to say the least, about what I saw, and quite frankly appalled by how the president conducted himself. Now, we all knew who Donald Trump was when he got elected, but I went into that administration because it felt really important for people who understood national security to try to keep some stability and continuity in those important agencies of the government. But with regularity, I saw that the president's inclinations were toward illegality and not doing the right thing. And the point at which we were not able to stop him from doing illegal things was the point at which I resigned from the administration. I had written an anonymous opinion piece about how unstable it was inside the Trump administration, and then came forward publicly, Tom, before the 2020 election to try to persuade my fellow Americans, especially fellow conservatives, not to reelect an obvious autocrat to the presidency.
And they came after you as a result of that.
Well, they did. On exactly 6 months ago to the day this year, the president issued an executive order, and as he signed it in the Oval Office, directing an investigation into me, he declared me guilty in his eyes of treason, the highest crime envisioned in the United States Constitution, a crime punishable by death. I suppose it would be reasonable, Tom, for your viewers and listeners to ask the question, if I am guilty of treason, then why 6 months later am I sitting here not in handcuffs and not in a jail cell? Mm-hmm. And I will give you the answer to that question. It's because I, of course, didn't commit treason to the United States. And Donald Trump's investigators, while I'm sure they are trying to find something to charge me with, as they have with James Comey, as it sounds like they will next week with John Bolton, cannot possibly justify the high bar the President of the United States has set that I have, in criticizing him, committed treason against the United States. And so since that time, I mean, my family has been grappling with the fallout, but we've made the decision not to stop speaking out, not to retreat, even though there are defense lawyers and friends and family members who think in the wake of something like that, it would be better to just step back and hope it blows over. we've taken the position that if we do that, it makes it easier for the president to come after other people. So I have resolved to put aside any business interests and other things that I was trying to pursue away from the public eye while growing my family. And I'm committing myself every single day for the next 3 years to shining a light on the president's abuses of power.
Yeah, this is why I went to www.treason.io and upgraded my subscription to a paid one just to support you. I encourage other people to do that. These are very dangerous times, and people like yourself who speak out are deserving of our support at the very least. Miles, let's talk about national security. You're a national security expert. You understand the risks and threats to this nation in ways that probably most people are just wildly unaware of. What do you see as the biggest national security risks coming out of the currently configured federal government?
Well, look, I'll say this. The irony is not lost on me that the reason that someone like me went into government to go defend our country against foreign terrorist organizations and the tools that were built to make that happen are now being turned against the American people. And let me put that a little bit more explicitly. The counterterrorism architecture we built after 9/11 to hunt and identify and watch list and detain or eliminate foreign terrorists is now in the process of being turned against the American people and the political opposition. And there was a much overlooked executive order from the president last month called NSPM 7, National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, that laid out the bureaucratic process by which the president of the United States can now name virtually any organization he wants in the United States as a terrorist organization. And that opens the door for him to add Americans, potentially by the thousands, to the terrorist watch list and start to criminalize criticism in this country. This isn't made up. This isn't hyperbole. You can go to the White House website and read this language. It is extraordinary. It's the type of thing, when I was at the Department of Homeland Security in the first Trump administration, that I would have lit on fire if it hit my desk. I would have said, this is illegal. I don't need the lawyers to tell us this. This is unconstitutional. We cannot possibly go forward with this. This would be the most dystopian thing the administration has done.
It says if you're an anti-capitalist, which could be described as what, a union member, a union leader, somebody who calls themselves a democratic socialist, or a Democrat, that if you're anti-capitalist, that's one of the indicators of potential for terrorist activities, and therefore the 200 or so joint terrorism task forces around the United States, which I understand are kind of a fusion of FBI and local police, but that's going to be my question to you in just a second, that they can begin investigating you right now. So I come out and, our daily song today is we're all socialists, and so they say, oh, Hartmann's an anti-capitalist. What can they do to me once they have identified me as anti-capitalist under this national security memorandum? And how do these these joint terrorism task forces work?
Well, let's use you as an example, Tom, because this is not an exaggeration. Given the political positions you have staked out in the past year, it would not be beyond imagination that one of this administration's joint terrorism task forces around the country could be directed to investigate you and your program and decide that the things you are saying are maybe aiding and comforting the enemy in their view. So they designate a terrorist organization and they say, you are saying things that provide them material support. And even if that's not true, you're not going to have a say in that. They can open the investigation, and they don't need anything more than reasonable suspicion to add you, Tom, to the terrorist watch list.
Which means what? Which means I can't fly?
A lot of things. Well, if they decide to put you on the no-fly list, but that would be a mistake because then they would tip you off to the fact that you're on the list. It just makes it a lot easier to track and monitor you, not just from a travel perspective, but a financial perspective. And if they want to go seek additional measures, It'll facilitate the ability to monitor your communications. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
This isn't in the abstract anymore. This is now happening. And there was a saying in the 20th century about the banality of evil. You know, people imagine evil is a jackboot kicking down their front door and their neighbors being pulled out by the collars and put on trains and sent to gulags. That's not what it looks like at first. It's very, very bureaucratic. You have to get these people and systems and processes in place. And that is what is happening. You are seeing this administration do exactly that. And, it is, I think, the gravest threat to First Amendment rights that we have seen in this country, if not in the modern era alone, perhaps in the 249-year history of the whole republic.
Yeah, we're talking with Miles Taylor. www.treason.io is his website, his Substack newsletter. It's free. You need to check it out. The former chief of staff for the Department of Homeland Security. Miles, I just have a minute and a half or so left before we hit a hard break. How do you see this playing out, and what can we all do about it?
Well, look, the honest answer here is this administration wants to go all the way. The closest thing there is to martial law in this country is the declaration by the president of the Insurrection Act. You just saw the governor of the largest state in the union this week say we are on the brink of martial law. Whether you love or hate Gavin Newsom, take that seriously. If an American governor is saying that, I think the president wants to consolidate his power by invoking the act, by militarizing the country, and attempting to subvert elections to remain in power. It doesn't get more serious than that. And Tom, the response is mass mobilization. People need to be taken to the streets. I know some people who are listening may say, I don't like protesting. I don't want to go out to protest. Well, I don't like protesting either. But you've got to show up. And on October 18th, we're going to see one of the biggest the popular movements in this country take to the streets to oppose Donald Trump. And I would urge people on No King's Day to be out there on the 18th. That's where this starts.
Yeah. 30 seconds here. Miles, you've described yourself as a conservative Republican. How does that conflict with what Trump is doing right now?
Well, look, I can put it very simply. The Republican Party was founded on three ideals: free minds, free markets, and free people. A reverence for free speech, a reverence for free market capitalism, and a reverence for human freedom and competitive multi-party democracy. Every single one of those pillars, Donald Trump has not just run away from them, he has strapped plastic explosives to the bases of those pillars and detonated them in full view of the American people and his party. Yeah. And his party is indifferent.
Yeah, my Republican dad, were he still alive, would be outraged. The Antifa guy who volunteered for World War II. Miles Taylor, the former chief of staff of the Department of Homeland Security. Treason.io is his website. Miles, thanks so much for dropping by.
Thanks, Tom.
Keep up the great work.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
18 minutes past the hour. More of the news of the day. Actually, some good news. J.D. Vance's favorite blogger might leave the country. Tell you about that after the break and your calls. And welcome back. Tim in Bowling, Alabama. Hey, Tim, you're on the air. What's up?
Hey, Tom. Well, I was thinking about two things. One is the farmers. A lot of farmers are filing bankruptcy, and some of them with 4 generations or 5 generations in their family. And when they file bankruptcy, I believe, and they lose their farm, I believe the government comes in and pays them some money, and the government owns the farm. So that may be
that's not how it works, Tim. When they declare bankruptcy, what happens is the bank repossesses the farm. Whoever holds the mortgage, 9 times out of 10, it's a bank or a credit union, and then they hire somebody to auction the house off or to sell it.
Yeah, like they did in 2008 with the people losing their homes.
That's right. And like they were doing back in the 80s when Reagan destroyed the farm economy.
Yeah. The other thing is what's going on with the in Chicago and L.A. and Oregon. I believe Trump is looking to incite the people in these states. And I hate to think about it, but I think about Rosewood and I think about the other Tulsa times when that happened to people of color.
Mm-hmm.
But those were my things I was thinking about anyway.
Yeah, good points. Good points. I think there are some analogies there. Hopefully we don't reach, the level of violence that those circumstances saw. But yeah, and Trump is doing some real damage. Thanks a lot for the call. Grant in Everett, Washington. Hey, Grant, thanks for listening to KBCS. What's on your mind?
A system of government by the whole population or all eligible members of the state, typically elected by representatives. That's our democracy. And I think that our representatives, all of them, Congress, Senate, and otherwise, need to be out there with the people they represent. And it will show that they are with the people, or it will give them an outlet to explain their views why they're not with the people.
Right.
I think that the anyone that chooses to represent us that is not willing to communicate with us or communicate with the people that elected them won't get reelected again because they're not representing us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. And I think Americans are waking up to that, at least with regard to the Republican Party and frankly, a handful of Democrats. Jared Golden in Maine, who, a Democrat who, I don't know, how do you say it, is kind of a Republican in drag. He's got a primary challenger now, a progressive, who's taking him on. So, I think people are waking up, Grant, and I take that as an optimistic sign. I realize, Trump and his buddies are moving as fast as they can to consolidate power and lock this, turn us into Russia. But at the end of the day, I really think democracy will prevail. Grant, thanks so much for the call. We'll be right back. Stick around. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them.
Born in a mansion of winners and losers, kindness was weakness, shame never shown. Roy Cohn whispered, attack and destroy, a gilded facade built on failure alone. The hunger for power, the need for control, a perfect machine for a heart without soul. The last American president. Is this how the story ends? Democracy breaking, the truth forsaken. We rise or we descend. Reform, resist, remember. The call is heaven sent. Or we'll write the history books of the last American president.
24 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. So remember Curtis Yarvin? He used to blog under the name of something like Moldius Gold Blug or something. It was weird, but anyhow, he's the kind of anti-democratic ideologue, the guy who says that we should replace our constitutional republic, our democratic form of government, small d democratic form of government, with basically, an oligarchy run by tech geniuses. The democracy is kind of out of date and all this sort of thing. And, he may argue with my definitions of, or my explanation of what he's saying, and I would refer you to his own writings for it. He's the guru of the Dark Enlightenment. And he's now quite worried that Trump is going to stumble and that the Republicans are going to fail to end democracy in America and turn us into this, kingdom run by the tech lords. And so he's now planning to leave the country. This is fascinating. There's an article here, Panicked Curtis Yarvin. He's J.D. Vance's guru, by the way. Plans to flee the USA. It says, fearing retribution from a future Democratic administration, a terrified Yarvin declared on October 5th that he is planning to flee the country. Writing on Substack, Yarvin said that the Trump administration is mostly engaged in performative theater and failing to fully destroy the nation's democratic institutions. He fears this will inevitably lead to a backlash once Democrats regain power. This is the exact quote. Quote, because the vengeance meted out after its failure will dwarf the vengeance after 2020. Because the successes of the second revolution are so much greater than the first, I feel that I personally have to start thinking realistically about how to flee the country. This is Curtis Yarvin. This is a good sign for democracy. If the guy who is like kind of the architect of the end of democracy in the United States, the guy who people like Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance think is, God's gift to philosophy, the grand guru of the future of America, if he's like freaked out that his plan to destroy American democracy is not going to succeed, and this guy pays close attention and he's seriously looking at this kind of stuff. If he thinks he's going to fail, if he thinks, ultimately we're coming for him or somebody's coming, the next Democratic administration is coming for him, and he wants to flee the country, hey, Curtis, don't let the door hit you on the way out. But sounds like a good deal to me. Stick around. We'll be right back. It's 27 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls right after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be right back with your calls. Richard Wolff's Understanding Socialism. This is from the introduction. Socialism is a kind of yearning for a better life than what capitalism permits for most people. Socialist yearnings are as old as capitalism itself because they are its products. Where and when capitalism's problems and failings have accumulated criticism and critics, socialist voices have arisen. And so it is again now. Any serious discussion of socialism must begin by acknowledging socialism's rich diversity. Whatever particular aspect of socialism we choose to analyze, they need to be located within socialism's complexity. That avoids presenting one's own interpretation as if it were the entirety of socialism. In this book, I focus on the economic aspects of socialism, how it differs from capitalism in broad outlines. I'm more interested in socialist critiques of capitalism and their implications about socialist alternatives than in the particulars of the few early experiments in erecting socialist systems, USSR, People's Republic of China, and so on, that history so far offers. Finally, my own education and work constrain me to concentrate on Western Europe and North America. Some important aspects of socialism are thus not covered or discussed here. Yearnings for better lives, such as socialism proposes, are not new. In slave societies, the slaves hoped and dreamed of lives less hard and less out of their own control. Their yearning aimed to obtain freedom. They sought social change that would preclude any one person being the property of another. In feudal societies, the serfs, free in the sense that no one owned them, yearned for better lives too. Their subordination to lords included heavy labor and other burdens that they wanted lifted. They hoped and dreamed of a society in which they would not be bound to the land, the lord of that land, and the feudal dues of labor and subservience. The serfs mobilized in the 1789 French Revolution to demand liberty, equality, and brotherhood. In effect, the serfs had expanded on what the slaves had called freedom. In the American Revolution against British King George III, the revolutionaries were neither slaves nor serfs. They were mostly self-employed farmers, craftspeople, and merchants subject to a foreign feudal kingdom. They wanted liberty as individuals to pursue their dreams without hindrance from feudalism or monarchism, whether foreign or domestic. They added democracy to the goals advanced by the slaves and serfs before them. The different systems of slavery, feudalism, and small-scale self-employment produced masses of people yearning for better lives. Eventually, each of those systems provoked revolutions. Many people then sought to break away from and go beyond those systems. The French and American revolutions marked key moments in the social transformations of major pre-capitalist systems into capitalist ones. By capitalist system, we mean that particular organization of production in which the basic human relation is employer-employee instead of master-slave, lord-serf, or individual self-employment. The revolutionaries who wanted and built capitalism hoped and believed the transition to employer-employee relations of production would bring with them the liberty, equality, brotherhood, and democracy they had yearned for. The revolution's leaders promised to themselves and to the people they led that those goals would be achieved. But the transition to capitalist employer-employee relations that increasingly replaced the previous slave, feudal, and self-employment relations of production had unintended consequences. Capitalism soon proved to be different from what its revolutionaries had hoped. While it enabled some people to be more free and more independent than slaves, serf, or self-employed subjects of monarchies had been, it also seriously limited freedom, independence, and democracy for many. Capitalism betrayed many of the promises made by its advocates. It produced and reproduced great inequalities of income and wealth. Poverty proved to be as endemic as capitalism seemed equally adept at producing and reproducing both wealth and poverty. The capitalist rich used their wealth to shape and control politics and culture. Democratic forms hid very undemocratic content. The cyclical instability attending capitalism constantly threatened and hurt large numbers of people, and so on. Growing numbers of employees within capitalism began to yearn for better lives. They defined those yearnings first in the familiar terms of the earlier French and American revolutions: equality, fraternity, liberty, and democracy. They criticized a capitalism that failed to deliver those to most people and demanded social changes to achieve them. Many people still continue to want a better, softer, friendlier capitalism, where government regulates and intervenes to achieve more of what the French and American revolutionaries had yearned for and promised. They are also often self-defined as socialists. However, capitalism's development provoked another, different perspective that also called itself socialism. In that view, capitalism had not broken from slavery, feudalism, and monarchy nearly as much as its advocates had imagined. Slavery had master slaves, feudalism had lord serfs, and monarchy had king subjects as their key sources of their inequalities, lack of freedom, oppressions, and conflicts. The employer-employee relation of production and capitalism generated parallel problems. Capitalism installed monarchies inside individual workplaces, even as monarchies outside workplaces were rejected. Kings mostly disappeared, but inside workplaces, the owners or their designated boards of directors assumed king-like powers. The book Understanding Socialism by Richard Wolff. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting progressive talk radio, and tag you're it. Donald Trump lost, voter suppression won in 2024. That's the headline over at HartmannReport.com, and just a brilliant article written by Greg Palast exclusively for the Hartmann Report. He writes, Trump lost, that is, if all legal voters were allowed to vote. If all legal ballots were counted, Trump would have lost the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Vice President Kamala Harris would have won the presidency with 286 electoral votes. And if not for the mass purge of voters of color, if not for the mass disqualification of provisional and mail-in ballots, if not for the new mass vigilante challenges in swing states, Harris would have gained at least another 3.5 million votes, topping Trump's popular vote tally by 1.2 million. Greg brings us the numbers. He lays it out. You can read it over at hartmanreport.com. Absolutely free. It's titled Trump Lost, Vote Suppression Won at hartmanreport.com. Check it out.
They try to silence voices. They tighten the chains. Corrupted by money, addicted to power and fame. But history whispers through the cries of the streets. The heart of the people will not admit defeat. When the powerful fear the people, democracy wins. The fire of freedom is burning within. We rise, we resist. We won't bow down again. When the powerful fear the people, democracy wins.
36 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. What's on your mind today? Michael in Bronx, New York. Hey, Michael, what's up?
Greetings, Tom, your buddy. Three things that has developed. Number one, let's make it clear this shutdown is solely the cause of these Republicans. Notice I use the word cons, C-O-N-S, because they're trying to connive the American people and Democrats. And they're wondering, what's wrong with Chuck Schumer? You know, he always cooperated. Newsflash. You guys have said, let's keep the government open, and then we can work out the issues down the road. Chuck Schumer offered an olive branch then. And then what have you done for the past few months? Did nothing but cater to Donald Trump and aid and abet the 34th time convicted felon into covering up the Epstein files, which has become his apparent kryptonite. Yeah. So you think Chuck Schumer and the Democrats going to fall for that crap again? I don't think so.
Did you see Schumer's new video, Michael?
It's
going viral. He walks right up to the camera. He says, you know, the Republicans want to take away your health care. He says, you know, for speaking for us, no effing way. And he drops the F-bomb. He says the word. He's right to the camera. No effing way.
When you push somebody to the limit, as my man as Chuck Schumer is, I'm not a bit surprised. And I got to confess, I've dropped F-bombs myself because that's how furious these people have made me. I was also furious at Pam Bondi. Now, I want to see Democrats put their foot down on her. She thinks she's going to go into Congress and then bully her way and then raise her voice at the senators that are asking her legitimate, relevant questions and saying, I'm not going to discuss this. I'm not going to answer your questions. No, damn it, you are going to answer the questions that you're put towards. You took an oath. Now you must abide by it, or you go to jail.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, they're trying to send Jim Comey to jail for lying to Congress. I don't understand why they're not going after some of these administration people.
I really don't think that he lied to Congress, but all this personal interest on Pam Bondi, on Mike Johnson, I think it's more than just they're trying to protect Trump because they're saying there's a list of people involved. I don't recall anyone saying that is all men. There could be some women involved as well, and Ghislaine Maxwell may not be the only one. Let's just keep an open mind on that. Does Pam Bondi personally involved in it? Is Mike Johnson personally involved in it?
I just posted over on Blue Sky a picture from, it looks like it's from the 90s, of a woman who looks like Pam Bondi with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I'm not sure that it's her. In fact, when I posted it, I asked, is this actually Pam Bondi? Because I'd seen it over on Facebook. with people saying, yeah, this is Pam Bondi, and I just don't know. But there she is with Donald Trump and Jeff. Or maybe it's an AI-generated picture. I just don't know. That's why I posted it with a question rather than an assertion. But, she certainly was Attorney General for 8 years in Florida while Jeffrey Epstein was raping young girls and didn't do a thing about it. Looked the other way completely.
One more note. And one more note before I go. If anyone was watching the New Jersey gubernatorial debate between Democrat Mikey Sherrill and Republican Jack Ciattarelli, I swear this guy had proven himself in more ways than one, even though he would not want to admit it, that he's a disciple of Trump and MAGA.
I didn't see the debate, Michael. I heard that it got heated. What was the takeaway, real quickly?
Give you one takeaway. He keeps saying, what does Trump have to do with New Jersey? We know everything, but he kept trying to distance himself from Trump. But then he had the audacity when asked about what kind of grade you would give Trump. He says, I'll give him an A, and it's so unfortunate. He says it's so unfortunate that his opponent had voted against the big, beautiful bill that would do so much for New Jersey. But wait a minute, Mr. Ciattarelli, you said Trump's got nothing to do with New Jersey. Why the hell are you promoting his big, beautiful bill?
Yeah, so he's contradicting himself. Yeah, I get it. Michael, thank you. Thank you so much for that. It's always nice hearing from you. Appreciate the call. Steve in Madison, Wisconsin. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I'd like to talk to you about a rally we're having in my city that I live in. Mm-hmm. And this rally has been scheduled for quite a while on No King's Day. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be family friendly, and we're going to have music and.
This is in Madison.
Face painting for the kids. Pardon me?
In Madison?
No, this is Janesville.
Janesville. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Then now I'm quoting this from a newspaper article. Mm-hmm. Now the opposition has scheduled a rally at the same time, in the same place, exact same place, and he reminded all of his followers that Wisconsin is a open carry state.
Oh, really? So you've got right-wingers who have learned that you had a family-friendly anti-Trump protest for No King's Day, and they're encouraging people to bring guns to it? Am I understanding that correctly?
The opposition protesters, yes.
Oh, that's so sad.
I'm quoting this from a newspaper in my town.
Yeah, these guys want a war. They absolutely want a war. They want to start killing people.
They want trouble, that's for sure.
Yeah. Steve, thanks for the heads up on that. I'm sorry to hear about it. I hope it goes well for you. You still going to do it?
Right. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Fearlessness is contagious. Courage is contagious. Thank you, Steve. Good luck. Yeah, give us a call afterwards and let us know how it went, okay?
I will.
Okay, good. Thanks. Good talking to you. Lucy in Baltimore, Maryland. Hey, Lucy, what's up?
Hi, thank you for taking the call. I had a couple of comments. First, I appreciate the platform for anyone that has an ounce of common sense to be able to listen to reason. So I want to put that out there.
Thank you.
And then one of the things that sparked me calling, I was listening to the interview with Mr. Taylor and the concept of identifying people as terrorists or terrorist organizations and whatnot. And from the very beginning, when the administration came into office and started shutting down government departments, one of the things that immediately came to my mind was it was all about fear-mongering. And I look at the Republican Party and I wonder, what could this individual have to hold against every single Republican member of Congress besides a possible blackmail opportunity? And it comes down to wealth. And then my question would have been to your guest, whether or not, assets can be seized when one is identified as a terrorist organization. And so I see that as the
pretty sure the answer is yes.
And creating this fear among the American populace, as one who's just very close to retirement and all the hard work I've put in saving my money and wanting to have a decent future for myself, to have, all of my assets seized, I think I'd rather be poor than live under this administration. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And I hope that so many other Americans would see that if if this were to be our path, money would do us no good anyway, unless we're willing to be a turncoat ourselves against what democracy stands for. So that was really one of the things of most interest that made me call today. But then I listened to you quote Curtis Yarmer, and I wanted to say that hearing that quote gave me even greater hope in moving forward that democracy is going to prevail. So I'm grateful for the platform, and thanks for taking my call and letting me put my voice out there as well.
Well, thank you, Lucy. Very nice to hear from you, and I share your perspective. Thank you so much. And thanks for listening to us on Sirius XM there in Baltimore. It's 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay tuned. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, the place where we dare to ask, is Walmart really a person? I mean, were those Republicans on the Supreme Court correct? No, I don't think so. Not a chance. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the place where smart people get their news. Stay tuned. And welcome back. Gabe in Placerville, California. Hey, Gabe, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I can't hear you, Gabe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Let me pick you up. Okay.
So your question or comment? Hello?
Yeah.
Now I'm not hearing you at all, Gabe. Gabe, I'm going to put you on hold and let you work this out with Mateo. Alan in Seattle. Hey, Alan, what's on your mind today? Gabe's on line 5, by the way, Mateo.
That Pam Bondi performance, and yeah, and the whole of the cabinet when they get before a senatorial or representative committee, they're just so obstinate and so confrontational. Mm-hmm. So, I think what we should do, like all good comedians, we should mock Pam Bondi and ask, mundane questions, like, did you enjoy your birthday? What in the federal government, what is your title? Do you know where the Department of Justice is? And she's going to flip out and say, why are you asking me these questions? And it's like, well, we just want to see if you can answer a simple question.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, Alan. She would just turn that around. I think they should deny her an opportunity to speak. Each senator is given 5 minutes. I think that each one of the Democrats should use their 5 minutes to give a 5-minute speech about everything they know about Pam Bondi's involvement in the Epstein cover-up, Pam Bondi's, taking $25,000 from Donald Trump when she was running for Attorney General in Florida, Pam Bondi's, ignoring some of Trump's crimes when she was Attorney General. There's enough stuff in her, and they don't need to ask her a single question. They don't need to give her a 1 minute to speak.
Right.
I think they should each one of them should use their 5 minutes to make their point, and just screw this whole oversight thing, because she's not going to play. So, okay, that's fine. You're not going to play. Neither are we.
Yeah, well, you're reading my mind, because I was going to say, use half your time to do exactly what you just described.
Right.
So,
right.
But
which is what Adam Schiff sort of did, toward the end there. He went through that whole list of all the things that she had refused to answer, all the questions she refused to answer.
Oh, absolutely. That was
it's a
great.
clip for the ages.
Yeah. One other quick snark. I think that protesters, when Kristi Noem is going to show up in their city, should bring puppy dogs in body armor.
Do you know if they make body armor style doggy coats? Are they on Amazon?
Well, we're boycotting our Amazon at the moment. But
yeah, no, I get that. I'm just not sure where else you'd find them. Maybe Etsy or something. But yeah,
an awful lot of talented people out there with the sewing machine.
Yeah, or just bring posters of dead dogs or something. It's or cartoons of it, or it's a. Ridicule is one of the things that dictators hate the most, because they take themselves so seriously. And
yeah.
it's why you're not allowed to you're not allowed to criticize the king, but most important, you may not make fun of the king. And that's, Stephen Colbert is gone, for example, as a result of that, or will be, Alan, thank you for the call. Great to hear from you. It's 10 minutes before the hour. I'll be back with you in just a few seconds. Stay with us. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us.
There's a man who gives the game away, hands our allies to the KGB each day. He shrugs off Putin's crimes while cashing in the dimes and laughs as freedom slowly slips away. Putin's secret agent man, Putin's secret agent man, selling out our future for a tyrant's sleight of hand.
51 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Gabe in Placerville, California. Hey, Gabe, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just fine.
Okay, great. Hey, yeah, and just to touch on that last caller's comment, how about Kevlar harnesses?
Yeah, Sean looked it up. They actually do have bulletproof dog vests. So if you bring your dog to a protest where Kristi Noema's going to be hanging out, get one.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm not taking my dog out there.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm sure you've seen the video from Chicago where the guy rolled up to the on his bike, on that little electric bike, to the Border Patrol agents, and he got him to chase him. And
Yeah, he started yelling, "I'm not an American citizen," and they five of them chased him down the road. He got away.
Yeah, and he got away. Yeah, it's awesome. It's a feel good video of the year. But I got a suggestion. I think we should, Portland should make him the Grand Marshal of the Naked Bike Ride.
Oh, that's a great idea. Except they would have to identify him.
In Chicago and all, but I think Portland can get him out there.
Yeah.
And get him a bike, and they can get him naked.
I love it. I love it.
And that's unite, and that's the way we.
That's a great one. Gabe, thanks for the suggestion. I appreciate it, and thanks for hanging on with us to get it all, the technical stuff worked out. Appreciate it. Barb in Chicago. Hey, Barb, what's up?
Hi. A little while, I love your show, by the way. Today is particularly great. A little while ago, you were talking about some guy who's going to, flee the U.S. I had never heard of him before.
Curtis Yarvin.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about technocrats. Can you just briefly say what you referenced?
Yeah, this
there?
whole dark enlightenment thing, and I recommend that you just stick dark enlightenment into a search engine, and you'll get the whole story. Put it in quotes.
Okay.
But just to summarize it real quickly, it's this idea that democracy is an old system. It's 3,000 years old. Its time has passed. It's past its prime, and we need to replace it with kingdom, basically, where the king is actually a group of technocrats, the Silicon Valley geniuses, who have built the giant AI platforms and the giant social media platforms. And they will run the country because they're smarter than the rest of us.
Thank you. That's fascinating. Last week I watched the 3 Sunday shows, and Marco Rubio, on I think all of them, used that term technocrat as who is going to run Gaza.
Oh, interesting.
It freaked me out. I had never heard that before, and I looked it up, and it's like, OMG. And so, you're seeing all the techno bros behind Trump at the last inauguration, it sort of clicked for me, and I wanted to know if you had heard of it, and if not, I wanted to share that.
Yep, I have, and that's Curtis Yarvin's thing, among others. I mean, he's not alone in this. Apparently, some of the right-wing billionaires like Peter Thiel are very into this, although I don't have personal knowledge of that.
And now our Secretary of State Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot, Barb. Appreciate the call. By the way, just heads up, news flash, Bob Kennedy just came out and said circumcision causes autism. Obviously, no evidence of that, but okay. He says it's because after they circumcise the child, they give him Tylenol. Yeah. Lawrence in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Hey, Lawrence, thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. We keep dancing around these little issues, relatively little issues like gerrymandering and James Comey indictment and fighting these little fights. I think the big thing that people are not realizing is we're not going to have midterms next year.
I think we'll have midterms. The question is, will anybody be able to vote?
I don't think we'll even have I think he'll suspend the elections. He'll declare martial law and suspend the elections.
Even Lincoln didn't suspend elections during the Civil War.
He didn't have the power that Donald Trump has. Who's going to stop him?
That's true. Well, we'll see. I don't think the American people will stand for it, Lawrence. I don't think he'll be able to pull it off. I think the Republicans will desert him if he tries to do that. But, who knows? They have certainly not been, profiles in courage. Lawrence, thanks for the call. Thank you. Hunter in Klamath Falls, Oregon. Hunter, I have about a half a minute here. You got a quick one here for the end of the show?
Yeah, all we need is love. John Lennon's birthday today. He's 85. He would have been 85.
Oh, wow.
He helped stop the war. And his son is 50 today. And Paul McCartney had the American flag, the British flag, and the Ukrainian flag at his concert in Las Vegas.
Oh, really?
The other night.
Wow.
Oh, he's always been, And, and the Beatles are for peace, and Putin's for peace, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, my son is flying the American flag and the Ukrainian flag on his house. I salute him. Hunter, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Great to hear from you. And thank you for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us, and that includes you. So get out there, get active, tag you're it. Have a great afternoon. Be good to yourself and the folks around you. Spread the good word. Make that your commitment for the day, your good deed for the day. Wake somebody up. Take good care of yourself, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free, and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!